Chapter 703. The young man in front of them had actually passed the internal test, which shocked everyone. The young and beautiful lady boss sneered with her hands on her hips. So, are you convinced? If you're a candidate for the internal test, you'll also have a room. The crowd was not satisfied. Are only candidates allowed to live here? That's unfair. That's right. We might also enter Senmu College. You can't treat us like this. Fair. The young and beautiful lady boss turned around. Okay, I'll give you fairness. There's only one room left, and it's a high-end suite, Storm Courtyard. Come and stay here if you can. Storm Courtyard. The crowd was surprised. Many of them wanted to retreat because Storm Courtyard was not an ordinary courtyard. It was the best courtyard in Wind Sweeping Tower. Not only did one have to pay an expensive rent to live here, but one also needed to be strong and powerful. In other words, ordinary people could not live here at all. However, the martial artists who came here were all geniuses with powerful families behind them. After some consideration, they decided to live in Storm Courtyard. Lin Xian stood where he was. After learning about Storm Courtyard, he was slightly surprised. Then he shook his head slightly and did not intend to compete. Lady Boss, I'll take Storm Courtyard. You'll take it? How arrogant. Who are you? Lady Boss, keep Storm Courtyard for me. Stop fighting. It's mine. The crowd chattered and quarreled again. The young and beautiful Lady Boss crossed her arms and stood in the shop, looking coldly at them. Suddenly a young voice sounded. Stop fighting. It's full. Storm Courtyard is gone. Gone. The crowd vomited blood and shouted in dissatisfaction. Didn't you say there was more? Why is it gone? Lady Boss, what's wrong? However, before the Lady Boss could speak, a young man of 14 or 15 years old appeared in front of the crowd. The young man was wearing exquisite clothes and said with a childish face, "Because Storm Courtyard has just been booked by my young master." Who does your young master think he is? How dare he beat us to it? Ask him to give up the room. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude. Kid, it's too dangerous here. It's not something you can get involved in. Get out of here. The crowd looked unhappy and shouted coldly. Hearing these people insulting the young master, the young man's face tightened and anger appeared in his eyes. He said angrily, "Hurry up and apologize, or don't blame me for being rude." "You're welcome." Everyone laughed. "How can you not be polite? Don't tell me you want to fight." They didn't put the youth in their eyes at all. It was no wonder. These people were all geniuses and were extremely proud, not to mention a young man. Even if they were geniuses of the same generation, they would not be convinced at all. However, in the next moment, they were all stunned. It was because the young man in front of them suddenly formed a seal with his small hands, releasing a dazzling light that pushed forward. Bang! Those arrogant martial artists were caught off guard and were hit by the light, immediately retreating. Whoosh! For a moment, a vacuum appeared in front of Wind Sweeping Tower. Everyone was shocked, and a trace of fear appeared in their eyes. A 14 or 15-year-old child was actually able to repel them, especially those who were hit. Their faces were filled with disbelief. However, this expression was quickly replaced by anger. "Brat, you dare to attack? Do you want to die?" Being defeated by a young man in front of everyone made them feel ashamed. If news of this spread, they wouldn't be able to live anymore. In the distance, Lin Xian was also surprised. The attack just now wasn't very powerful, but it was very exquisite. It could be said that the young man had completely relied on a profound and exquisite martial arts technique to repel everyone. Interesting. I didn't expect Skypool City to have so many experts. Lin Xian was excited. A young man was already so amazing. How powerful would the young man be? In front of him, someone couldn't help but attack. The wind from the palm was so strong that it seemed to tear the void apart. However, the young man was disdainful. He stepped forward and kept dodging, calmly avoiding the palm every time. What? Everyone was shocked. This was once again beyond their expectations. However, what surprised them was what happened next. They saw the young man continuously forming seals in the void, forming a blue treasure bottle and raising it above his head. Boom! The mouth of the bottle was facing down, and a ray of light shot out. The light was vast and mighty, like the Milky Way, surging in the void and crashing into the other party in the blink of an eye. Poof! With one move, the other party was sent flying. Then, the young man shot out another ray of Milky Way water in front of Windsweepin. My young master has booked Windsweepin. Does anyone have a problem with that? The young voice sounded again. Everyone was silent. The battle just now had shocked them. That exquisite footwork, that mysterious hand seal. Every one of them left them astonished. The young man's cultivation wasn't very high, but his strength was terrifying. The young master behind him must be even more powerful. No one dared to take the risk because they weren't confident. Therefore, there was a short period of silence. The young man was satisfied. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He turned around and was about to pay the room fee. However, at that moment, a clear voice came from afar again. Windsweep is ours. Everyone was shocked and turned around. Who was it that dared to attack them? Lin Xian also looked over curiously. He saw 7 figures appear at the end of the street and were walking toward them. They walked very slowly. Every time they took a small step, they covered hundreds of meters. It was as if they had shrunk the ground into an inch. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of everyone. Only then did everyone see them clearly. 7 young and beautiful girls appeared in front of everyone. They were beautiful and had impressive figures. They wore long white dresses with a red leaf embroidered on their sleeves. They didn't stop and walked directly toward Windsweepin. Brother Xian, let's go and take a look. Yu Fei was excited when he saw the 7 beauties. Lin Xian nodded, and the 2 of them walked forward. The martial artists around them also surrounded them. Lady Boss, I want a room. The last girl walked out and said in a sweet voice. The young and beautiful Lady Boss glanced at the red leaf embroidered on their sleeves and laughed. What a coincidence! The last Windsweepin has been booked by my young master. The young man interrupted the Lady Boss before she could finish her sentence. Your young master? The young girls laughed as if they had heard something funny. In Tianwu continent, there are only 4 people who can be called young masters. As far as we know, those 4 people won't come here. Who does your young master think he is? How dare he call himself a young master? The 7 of them laughed and didn't put the young man in their eyes. You. The young man was so angry that his face turned pale. Damn it! How dare you humiliate my young master? Get lost! The young girl who had asked earlier said coldly, You don't have the right to speak here. Ask your young master to come here. Everyone was stunned. The 7 young girls in front of them were very powerful. They actually ignored the young man. One had to know that many people had been beaten back by that young man earlier. Chapter 704. Her cold voice caused the surroundings to become silent. The young man's face turned pale. He clenched his fists and clenched his index finger. The spiritual energy in his body surged. You want to fight? The young girl smiled. I advise you to give up on that idea. Otherwise, you will die a miserable death. The young man didn't believe her. He quickly formed a seal with his hands. However, halfway through, his body stiffened. A line of blood appeared on his cheek, and traces of blood flowed out. The young man was terrified. Although the wound wasn't deep, he didn't see the trajectory of the opponent's attack. If the attack was aimed at his throat, he might have already died. The surrounding martial artists were even more shocked. Most of them didn't see it clearly. Only a few experts understood. Brother Xian, what's going on? Yu Fei was puzzled. Maple leaves, Lin Xian said. The wound was caused by the maple leaves. He saw the scene clearly. The mysterious young girl had used a maple leaf to cut the young man's cheek. Her speed and strength were controlled accurately. It could be said that if she wanted to kill the young man, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. The young man was terrified. He raised his hands in the air and didn't know what to do. At this moment, a pair of strong hands supported him. "Young master!" The young man was surprised. Everyone was shocked and looked over. Lin Xian also looked up curiously. A young man in a blue and white robe appeared. There was a jade flute on his waist. His expression was cold. "It was you who injured my servant?" The young man in the blue and white robe asked. "It was me." The young girl sneered. "Remember, my name is Xiao Feng." The young man's voice was calm. "If you hear this name in the future, take a detour. You are courting death." Suyu shouted. She raised her hand and threw out 2 maple leaves. It was so fast that most people didn't see it clearly. Buzz! Buzz! However, Xiao Feng caught it with his hands. The 2 maple leaves trembled between his fingers. They wanted to escape, but they were powerless. "How dare you be so arrogant with such little strength? Go back and train for another 2 years. Hearing this, Su Yu was enraged. She shouted and thrust her palms out like butterflies. A terrifying and vast power gushed out. She waved her palms, which were extremely dazzling. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect the 2 of them to really fight. The people of Wind Sweeping Building were dissatisfied. They wanted to scold them. At this moment, another young girl walked out and threw down maple leaves. "This is Red Leaf Valley's business. Unrelated people, scram." Her voice wasn't loud, but everyone heard it. "Red Valley. It's them." Many people took a breath and quickly retreated. This was a great power that was incomparably powerful. Moreover, their way of doing things was extreme. Just like just now, if someone tried to stop them after they scattered the red leaves, they would become the target of their slaughter. In the past, there were supremacies who broke their rules and were all killed. Su Yu and Xiao Feng were fighting. Both of them controlled their power and didn't affect Wind Sweeping Tower, as if they were worried about something. Su Yu was knocked back. She clutched her chest in pain. "You dare to hurt me?" "Go." Su Yu snorted coldly. Suddenly, the 7 people attacked together. "Stubborn." Xiao Feng coldly snorted. However, Xiao Feng dealt with it calmly. However, the people around him weren't so lucky, especially the young page boy. He was sent flying by the energy. The young page boy screamed. His body was sent flying like a meteor. Xiao Feng was furious. His body swayed, but he was blocked by the 7 people's formation. Seeing the young page boy flying, everyone dispersed. No one dared to catch him. Red Leaf Valley's warning was still echoing in their ears. Red Leaf Valley was vicious. They even dared to kill venerables. Therefore, no one dared to catch him. Everyone dispersed, and a vacuum appeared. However, there were 2 people who were exceptions. They were Lin Xian and Yu Fei. Yu Fei was afraid. He wanted to retreat, but seeing that Lin Xian didn't move, he could only stand still. Lin Xian looked at the young page boy flying over and sighed. He waved his sleeve and caught him. Thank you." The young page boy's face was pale. "What?" Everyone was shocked. They looked at this scene in disbelief. There was actually someone who dared to interfere in Red Leaf Valley's matters. Did he want to die? The young and beautiful lady boss was also surprised. She stared at Lin Xian and suddenly frowned as if she had discovered something. The most furious ones were the 7 girls from Red Leaf Valley. One of them even shot out several maple leaf concealed weapons at Lin Xian and the young page boy. The young page boy trembled. He couldn't see the trajectory at all. Everyone sneered as they watched the show. They thought that Lin Xian was dead meat. Yu Fei also stood behind Lin Xian nervously. Lin Xian, on the other hand, frowned slightly. With a wave of his sleeve, he formed a whirlpool of energy and collected the maple leaf concealed weapon. What? Nothing. Everyone was stunned. They realized that they had underestimated Lin Xian. The people from Red Leaf Valley were also stunned. At this moment, Xiao Feng shouted angrily. A powerful aura erupted from his body and forced the 7 people back. The 2 sides stopped and faced each other. Xiao Feng's body flashed and instantly appeared in front of Lin Xian. "Brother, thank you for your help," Xiao Feng said. "How should I address you?" "Lin Xian." "Brother Lin, I will remember this favor." On the other hand, the people from Red Leaf Valley were enraged. They glared at Lin Xian with murderous intent in their eyes. "Brat, you dare to interfere in Red Leaf Valley's matters. You're dead meat. Good, I'll kill both of you today." Su Yu snorted. "All right, everyone stop." At this moment, the young and beautiful lady boss said, "No need to fight. I've already decided who to give the room to." Humph. Hearing this, Su Yu and the rest stopped and said proudly, "Storm Courtyard will definitely be ours. Sisters, let's go." "No." The young and beautiful lady boss shook her finger. "I'll give the room to him." Then she pointed to the front. "Xiao Feng." Everyone was shocked. The people from Red Leaf Valley were furious. "What did you say? Why are you giving it to that Xiao guy?" "It's not Xiao guy. It's that Lin Xian young hero Lin." The young and beautiful lady boss smiled and persuaded. What? Everyone was stunned and couldn't believe it. Even Xiao Feng was surprised. This result was out of everyone's expectations. For a moment, many people stared at Lin Xian with unkind expressions. If it was Red Leaf Valley or Xiao Feng, they could tolerate it. But to give it to an unknown martial artist, they couldn't tolerate it. Especially the 7 girls from Red Leaf Valley. They were full of killing intent as they stared at Lin Xian. They couldn't wait to tear him apart. Lin Xian smiled bitterly and rubbed his nose. Giving the room to him was something he never thought of, but it sounded good. He was still worried about not having a room to live in. As for Red Leaf Valley, he had already offended them, so it didn't matter if he offended them again. Why? Someone was unconvinced. Humph, I like people who act bravely for a just cause. Can't I? The young and beautiful lady boss snorted. If that's the case, then I'll take my leave. Brother Lin, see you at the academy. Xiao Feng cupped his fists and left with his errand boy. The others stared at Lin Xian with unkind expressions. Chapter 705. Lin Xian's unexpected acquisition of the Tempest Courtyard made him the target of envy. The people from the Red Leaf Valley especially wanted to attack him. However, they were stopped by the young and beautiful lady boss. The lady boss was very forceful and chased away the people from the Red Leaf Valley. The 7 beautiful girls looked unfriendly, but they seemed to be very wary of the Tempest Courtyard, so they did not attack. However, before they left, Su Yu warned in a cold voice, "Brat, you dare to steal from my master. You're dead meat." Master? Everyone was shocked. These 7 outstanding women were actually servants. Just how powerful was their master? Could he be a prodigy from the Red Leaf Valley? Someone guessed. However, no matter what, they all thought that Lin Xian was dead meat. Lin Xian pursed his lips. Since he had already offended them, there was no need to be polite. "Sure, we'll talk about this after you enter the academy." Then he ignored the 7 mad women and walked into the Tempest Courtyard with Yu Fei. Only a group of envious rabbits was left behind. The Tempest Courtyard was very large. It was equivalent to a small mansion. There were landscape gardens, pavilions, and towers. There was even a green lake in the center. It was very beautiful. Lin Xian and Yu Fei were each given a guest room and prepared to rest. However, The young and beautiful lady boss came not long after. She carried a few dishes and a pot of spirit wine into Lin Xian's room. The lady boss was very young. Lin Xian estimated that she was only 20 years old. Her snow-like skin was smoother than silk. Her long hair was black, and her big eyes were watery. When she smiled, it was as if she could speak. The two sweet dimples on her cheeks made her even more adorable. Lin Xian was stunned when he saw this. He did not expect the lady boss to personally deliver food. Moreover, combined with the previous incident, he felt that the lady boss seemed to want to get close to him. This made him wary. "How is it? Is your stay comfortable?" the young and beautiful lady boss asked. "Come, try the dishes I cooked." "What, do you want me to feed you?" Lin Xian, finally he sighed. "Tell me, what's your purpose?" "Purpose?" The young and beautiful lady boss blinked. "Why do you think so? You're willing to offend Red Leaf Valley to give me the storm courtyard. I'm afraid it's not just because of interest, right? Sigh, you really don't have conscience. I let you stay in a luxurious house, and you still suspect others." The young and beautiful lady boss lightly snorted. "But to be honest, it really isn't because of Red Leaf Valley." "Then why?" "Because I've seen you before." "Where?" "In a painting. I didn't believe it at first. I didn't think that you really existed." Lin Xian, he didn't quite understand and wanted to ask for clarification. However, the young and beautiful lady boss didn't seem to give him a chance. "All right, enjoy your meal. I have to go. Wind Sweeping Restaurant is very busy. There are many things that need to be taken care of." With that, she stood up and walked away, swaying her hips. She pushed the door open and saw Yu Fei walking towards her. The young and beautiful lady boss giggled and then left. Yu Fei was stunned. Then, as if he understood something, he revealed a strange smile. He ran into the room and closed the door. He said mysteriously, "Big Brother Xian, I admire you. You got it done so quickly." "Done? What did you get done?" Lin Xian didn't understand. "Done with the lady boss. Don't tell me that you two aren't having an affair. I won't believe it even if you beat me to death." Yu Fei had an I know look. Lin Xian. In the following days, Lin Xian stayed in the storm courtyard to cultivate, while Yu Fei went out to gather information. Although Yu Fei's strength was average, he was very good at gathering information. Soon, he returned to Lin Xian's room. "Big Brother Xian, I got it." "Oh." Lin Xian opened his eyes. "Let's hear it." Senmu College's assessment is divided into 3 categories: aptitude, strength, and willpower. Those who pass these 3 categories can enter Senmu College. If you're not a disciple in the internal test, the normal assessment rate is usually 1 in 10. Moreover, this is under the condition that all of you are geniuses. After listening to Yu Fei's explanation, Lin Xian understood. To put it bluntly, Senmu College wanted geniuses among geniuses. "How many days do we start?" 3 days. Also, according to my sources, there are many more geniuses this time than before. It seems that there's something in the school that's attracting them, but I don't know what it is exactly. More people. Lin Xian rubbed his chin. "You've already asked enough. We'll talk about the rest after I enter the school." After that, Lin Xian gave Yu Fei a sum of spirit stones to let him stay in Tianzi City. Of course, he didn't stay in the storm courtyard. It was too expensive. Even Lin Xian felt pained by the price of the house. During these 3 days, Lin Xian wasn't the only one collecting information. Everyone else was doing the same. Moreover, some of the experts were not only collecting information about the assessment, but also about their opponents. Wind Sweeping Tower, Luophone Courtyard. A beautiful figure in white sat by the lake like a fairy. Beside her was a cute girl and a middle-aged scholar. In front of her was a half-kneeling man in black. The woman in white was Morong Qingqing. She was also in Tianzi City. "How's the investigation going?" "Miss, it's done. The few powerful people this time are all staying in wind-sweeping tower. Xiao Li from the floating life courtyard. He's a genius from the sand region. He's good with sabers. He's estimated to be a first layer venerable. Lan Bai from the Lingyun courtyard. He's good with poison. He once poisoned a venerable to death. He seems to be related to the 10,000 Poison sect. Shen Yaotian from the Sunset Courtyard. He's a first-layer venerable. He's a disciple of the Shun family. As for the Storm Courtyard, this person is very special. It's said that he was randomly chosen by the Lady Boss when he was fighting with others in the Red Leaf Valley. Randomly chosen? Murong Qingqing muttered. Those who can enter this place are no ordinary people. What did you find out? I haven't found anything yet. I only know that he's called Lin Xian. Lin Xian? Murong Qingqing was stunned. Then she asked, "Is he a young man?" "Yes. I didn't expect him to come here." Murong Qingqing muttered. Then she said, "Very well. You may leave." Yes. The man in black left respectfully. He probably came to Senmu College because he heard that the Palace of Ares was closed, the Wild Palm Scholar said. "Humph, that despicable guy. I curse him that he can't pass the assessment." Ling huffed. Murong Qingqing was very happy. This is great. After entering the college, there will be plenty of opportunities. I don't believe that he can reject this time. Miss, although Lin Xian is exceptionally talented, we still have to prioritize that matter, the Wild Palm Scholar reminded her. Don't worry, I know. Murong Qingqing nodded. If the news is true, it'll be too shocking. No matter what, I have to fight for that qualification. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Senmu College's assessment had begun. The first round tested one's aptitude. It mainly examined one's physique, bloodline, talent, and other congenital conditions. In this aspect, Lin Xian's talent was outstanding. His comprehension was extremely high. In addition, his physique had been nourished by the earth spirit liquid and was relatively strong. However, in the aspect of bloodline, he was ordinary. In fact, compared to those martial artists with bloodline power, he was a little ordinary. However, overall, he passed the aptitude test. Chapter 706. In a square in Tianzi City, there were many strange devices and arrays. Next to them were the official disciples of Senmu College. In the middle were a few elders. They were the chief examiners for the assessment. They looked at the dense crowd in the square with a satisfied expression. There are more people than expected this time. Yeah, I hope there are some good seedlings. It's best if they have the power of bloodline. The elders whispered to each other. They were looking forward to the assessment. Those who were in charge of the array formation were the disciples. Their chins were light as they looked around arrogantly. The young male disciples frowned in dissatisfaction. However, they could only endure it because of their status. The female disciples, on the other hand, were staring at the official disciples with infatuation. Some of them even kept throwing flirtatious glances at them. Brother Yang, I heard that Goddess Murong is here too. Is that true? Among the official disciples, many of them swept their gazes over the crowd. They were still young, and it was the time for them to fall in love. In addition, Murong Qingqing was too famous. Hence, they were very curious. Yeah, the young man who was called Brother Yang nodded slightly. He scanned the crowd and stopped at a spot. Yan Qingyang's lips curled into a smile that he thought was dashing. That was Murong Qingqing. The surrounding disciples were excited when they heard that. They looked over and saw a beautiful white figure in the crowd. She was as beautiful as a fairy. She's so beautiful. The rumors are true. She's the most beautiful woman in the world. Whoever gets her attention will be blessed by 3 lifetimes. Ha! With Brother Yang around, we'll definitely get her. The surrounding disciples complimented. Kid, I like your sweet mouth, Yan Qingyang said with a smile. He looked at Murong Qingqing with a face full of adoration. He had taken a liking to such a beautiful woman at first sight. At the same time, he swore to himself that he would get her. Lin Xian also saw Murong Qingqing. However, he did not walk over. Instead, he nodded and greeted her from afar. Lin Xian would definitely become a public enemy if he walked over. He did not want to get into trouble. At the same time, he saw Xiao Li and Shen Yaotian. Lin Xian also greeted the former. As for the latter, he completely ignored him. Shen Yaotian gritted his teeth in anger. His eyes were gloomy as he stared at Lin Xian, his killing intent surfacing. Now that he'd successfully advanced into the Exalt realm, he was absolutely confident in his ability to kill Lin Xian. Brat, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. Once we enter the academy, see how I'll kill you. Boom. The bell rang, and everyone fell silent. At this moment, the elder of Senmu College stepped forward and announced loudly, the assessment begins. The first aptitude test begins. Then, everyone started the test according to the order. The test was divided into 10 groups, and each group had 3 light pillars, respectively testing talent, constitution, and bloodline. Every test had a score of 1 to 9. Since most people didn't have bloodline power, they passed with a score of 12 or more. However, the higher ones score, the more attention they would receive from the academy. Talent: 5 points physique, 6 points bloodline, 0 points failed. Next, the examiner said coldly. Hearing that, the examiner left dejectedly. Talent: 7 points physique, 6 points bloodline, 0 points passed. Talent: 9 points physique, 9 points. Lin Xian placed his palm on the first 2 light pillars, which immediately caused the examiner to exclaim. They had never seen someone with a score of 9 points, and this sound attracted everyone's attention. Many examiners looked toward Lin Xian. At the same time, the elders also looked over curiously. Talent and physique, a score of 9 points. This kind of martial artist is really rare. Looks like another prodigy has appeared. I wonder how his bloodline is like. Another elder asked with concern. Everyone also wanted to know and paid attention. Among them, Murong Qingqing's white clothes fluttered, and there was a trace of anticipation in his expression. Shen Yaotian's eyes were gloomy, and he kept cursing in his heart. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Lin Xian placed his hand on the 3rd light pillar. However, in the next moment, the examiner was stunned. This was because Lin Xian's bloodline was 0 points. Bloodline 0 points. What? 0 points, so he doesn't have the power of bloodline. Many people heaved a sigh of relief. A few elders showed a trace of disappointment. It seemed that they valued the power of bloodline very much. Shen Yaotian sneered. Indeed, he doesn't have the power of bloodline. Humph, what a piece of trash. Let's see how you compete with me. Yan Qingyang also shook his head, and his expression returned to normal. To be honest, when Lin Xian displayed a score of 9 points, he was very nervous. However, now that he saw that Lin Xian's bloodline was 0 points, he was relieved. He was a genius, but he would never become a top genius. This was his evaluation of Lin Xian. The power of bloodline was very important and had a nature-defying effect. Especially as one's cultivation increased, the power of bloodline became more prominent. If a martial artist with ordinary talent awakened the power of bloodline, he would become a peerless genius. This was because the power of bloodline was a disguised inheritance. Only when a martial artist of a king level or higher appeared in a family could the bloodline be passed down. Once that power was awakened, it would be very powerful. Lin Xian's talent and perception were very strong. There were not many who could compare with him. However, the first round also involved bloodline. Therefore, in summary, Lin Xian was not outstanding. On the other hand, the other guys who had the power of bloodline were very eye-catching. The people of Senmu College seemed to value bloodline very much. Therefore, in terms of proportion, they favored bloodline. Moreover, they paid special attention to the few people who possessed the power of bloodline. Among them, Murong Qingcheng, Xin Yaotian, and the others had displayed the power of bloodline and attracted the attention of the elders of the college. Lin Xian even found that Xiao Li had the power of bloodline. "Boy, how are you feeling now?" The Crimson Dragon asked from the demon beast pouch. "Nothing. In my opinion, the power of bloodline is a gift from the ancestors. It's better to have it, but it doesn't matter if you don't have it." Lin Xian's expression was calm, and his eyes flickered. "So, what if I don't have the power of bloodline? When I reach the king level, I can still produce my own power of bloodline." He was very confident and didn't suffer any blow. "It's okay. You didn't suffer much." The Crimson Dragon nodded. "Xiao Xuanzi, remember, you have the great dragon sword soul. It has already surpassed countless bloodline powers. As long as you don't die, you will definitely be a super expert in the future." Lin Xian agreed with this point because he had seen the power of the great dragon sword soul. Its combat strength was truly heaven-defying. So what if he had the power of bloodline? He had killed more than one martial artist of the Divine Bird Palace who had the bloodline of the Divine Bird. Therefore, Lin Xian really didn't take this test seriously. Half a day later, the first round of the test was over. More than half of the martial artists were eliminated. They were all geniuses from their hometowns, but when they came here, they could only accept the cruel reality. Okay, now for the second round of the test, Will. Chapter 707. At the end of the first round, everyone's points were revealed. Those who had more than 12 points were considered to have passed. Moreover, the higher the points, the higher the ranking. The higher the ranking, the more attention one would receive after entering the academy. Murong Qingcheng ranked first, followed by Xiao Li and Shen Yaotian. Lin Xian's score was 9 points, but he didn't have any bloodline power, so he was ranked fourth. Shen Yaotian looked at Lin Xian and snorted. His eyes were full of disdain. Lin Xian shook his head slightly when he saw the provocation in Shen Yaotian's eyes. Shen Yaotian was already no match for him when they were in the Sand region. Even if Shen Yaotian had entered the honorable realm, he would still be no match for him. As for the bloodline power, Lin Xian believed that his dragon sword soul could completely suppress it. Therefore, in Lin Xian's opinion, Shen Yaotian's impatient provocation was purely courting death. Okay, let's move on to the second round, the test of willpower. As soon as the elder finished speaking, half of the martial artists left the square. They had all been defeated in the first round and could only be reduced to spectators. Lin Xian was not worried about the test of willpower at all. Willpower referred to the heart of martial arts. It was also whether one could resist temptation, fear, and other emotions. As a swordsman, Lin Xian had sword essence. His willpower was far stronger than that of ordinary people. Moreover, he also had the dragon sword soul, which could destroy everything. It could be said that very few things could affect him. As more than half of the martial artists left, the square suddenly became comfortable and was no longer so crowded. There were originally more than 1,000 candidates, but now there were only about 500 left. This time, the test was no longer using light pillars. Instead, it was using sparkling white jade platforms. Everyone was given a platform and then sat down. Lin Xian noticed that the mysterious jade platforms were engraved with complicated inscriptions, which emitted an inexplicable power. More than 500 mysterious jade platforms combined with the array underground to form the second round of the test. The second round of the test begins. As soon as the voice sounded, Lin Xian felt the space around him distort and the scenery around him began to change rapidly. In the next moment, he found himself in a forest. Whoosh! In front of him, a masked man in black, holding a long sword, rushed over quickly. Wang! The mighty sword, Qi, quickly slashed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian's eyes narrowed slightly but did not flicker. Puff! Soared qi slashed down, passing through like smoke. At that moment, Lin Xian felt as if he had been struck by lightning, as if he could die at any moment. What a realistic illusion! He exclaimed inwardly. That scene just now was too realistic, and he couldn't tell the difference at all. Moreover, the pain was even more realistic. Lin Xian realized that if someone didn't have a strong will, they might die here. Soon, the scene changed, and Lin Xian began the next round of the test. While Lin Xian was taking the test, a change occurred in the square. A few profound jade platforms glowed with white light, teleporting the martial artists on the platforms outside. All the martial artists who were teleported had pale faces and terrified expressions. The surrounding martial artists were shocked. They didn't know what kind of assessment these people had gone through, but looking at their state, it was probably very horrifying. Looking at the martial artists who failed, the official disciples looked disdainful, but the elders behind them shook their heads slightly. If they can't even withstand the beginning of the test, it's useless no matter how good their aptitude is. Yes, those children are not bad. They passed almost instantly, a red-robed elder said with a smile. He was naturally paying attention to the few people who had bloodline power. That person with double 90 points is not bad either. He also passed instantly, the white-robed old lady said. A few elders watched and nodded continuously. The illusion deepened bit by bit, and the difficulty rose sharply. Many of them looked like they were in pain. However, Lin Xian sat cross-legged on the profound jade platform without any reaction. This greatly surprised the elders. Is this child's will that firm? They had never seen such a calm candidate. One had to know that even Murong Qingqing and the others were frowning. In the illusion test, Lin Xian stood calmly with his hands behind his back. A dragon-shaped sword qi coiled around his body, destroying the illusions. Some of the weaker illusions were already on the verge of collapsing before they even reached Lin Xian. Lin Xian was like the nemesis of those illusions. Not only was he not affected, but he also restrained them. That double 90 points is not simple. A few elders exclaimed. Those official disciples were aghast. They were all people who had experienced the illusion test. They were very familiar with the illusion. It was a martial artist's nightmare. In the end, they could not even tell if it was an illusion or reality. However, Lin Xian was not affected at all. Yan Qingyang looked at Lin Xian with a gloomy look. He did not believe that Lin Xian could remain so calm. However, in the next moment, a crisp sound shocked him. Not only him, but everyone was stunned. Even the elders widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. A few of them looked at each other and were too shocked to speak. That was because the mysterious jade platform that Lin Xian was sitting on suddenly cracked open as if it had been cut open by someone. It was too shocking. After entering the illusion, martial artists could not control their bodies, let alone cut open the mysterious jade platform. Now, the mysterious jade platform was broken. Did the illusion not affect him? A few elders were depressed. They had never seen such a thing. The illusion was terrifying. Not to mention these young people, even those old monsters of the 4th or 5th honorable realm would be affected. Strange, it's really strange. A few of them could not understand. The moment the mysterious jade platform broke, Lin Xian came out of the illusion. After knowing what had happened, his face turned pale. Damn it, if I had known, I would not have used the great dragon's sword soul to attack, Lin Xian muttered to himself. He was a little worried. What would happen if he broke the mysterious jade platform? I'm not considered eliminated, right? Lin Xian was a little guilty. The elders suppressed the shock in their hearts as they stared at Lin Xian incessantly. It doesn't count. Little guy, your performance is beyond our expectations. Young man, what's your name? I happen to be lacking a disciple. Are you interested in being my disciple? A few elders asked. Junior Lin Xian greets all seniors. Lin Xian said respectfully as he stood up and left the square. The surrounding martial artists were shocked. The official disciples widened their eyes. It was the first time they had seen the elders so enthusiastic. Many of them even suspected that they had been affected by the illusion. Yan Qingyang snorted. As a supreme talent, he had not received such treatment. How could a young man who had not even entered the sect receive such treatment? Therefore, he looked at Lin Xian with a hint of hostility. As time passed, more and more people were sent out. These people were pale and looked weak. They were not in good condition. Gradually, the number of people in the square decreased. In the end, only a few figures were left. They were the ones who had performed well in the first round. Chapter 708. There were only a few people left in the square. They were Murong Qingqing, Shaoli, and the others. Lan Bai and a few other experts were also persevering. However, the power of the illusory realm increased as they progressed. Even those supreme talents could not withstand it. Therefore, more and more people were sent out, and the number of people in the square decreased. In the end, there were only 4 people left: Murong Qingqing, Shaoli, Lan Bai, and Shen Yaotian. I'm sure that Murong Qingqing will still be the first in the second round. That goes without saying. Even an idiot can see that. She is indeed a god's favored girl. Not only is she beautiful, but her strength is also unparalleled. Whoever marries such a woman will be blessed for 10 lifetimes. Everyone was talking about her with envy in their eyes. Soon, Lan Bai opened her eyes, sighed, and was sent out. Before long, Shin Yaotian was also sent out. There were only 2 people left in the square. Shin Yaotian found that Lin Xian had already been sent out. Then he smiled disdainfully. Trash. Not only do you have no blood force, but your willpower is also trash. So what if you are in the lead? The road of martial arts is a test of comprehensive strength. I will let you know who the real supreme talent is. Shan Yaotian was full of ambition. He could not wait to fight with Lin Xian and trample him under his feet. In his opinion, Lin Xian must not have passed the illusory realm and was sent out in advance. Lin Xian ignored Shin Yaotian and stared at the 2 figures in the square. Shao Li was a swordsman. He possessed saber intent and had even condensed a saber soul. His will was incomparably firm. He was much stronger than ordinary warriors. Lin Xian knew this. Therefore, he speculated that Shao Li would be able to last until the end. However, Murong Qingqing's performance was beyond his expectations. Lin Xian had never been able to see through this girl who had been famous for a long time. He didn't know what her martial soul was, and he didn't even know what her cultivation level was. However, he was sure that Chunxi had definitely entered the Exalt realm a long time ago. Moreover, it would seem like Chunxi's natural talent and were top-rate existences. As expected of the blessed daughter of the heavens, she is indeed valiant. On the square, several elders looked at the beautiful figure and nodded in satisfaction. Time passed slowly as the crowd waited anxiously. They did not expect that there would be someone who could compete with Murong Qingqing. Suddenly, Shaoli furrowed his brows. His body glowed with white light as he was teleported out. It's out. Looks like the outcome has been decided. Murong Qingqing won. Murong Qingqing's supporters cheered. Not long after, Murong Qingqing was also teleported out. Her forehead was covered with a layer of sparkling and translucent sweat. It seemed that persevering until now was also very difficult for her. All right, the second round is over. Those who persevered for more than 30 minutes have passed the test. Many people sighed and hung their heads dejectedly because nearly half of the people had been eliminated in the second round. Those who had passed were nervously calculating their rankings. The corners of Shen Yaotian's mouth curled up. He was satisfied because he found that he was ranked 3rd. If he could reach the top 3 in the combat assessment, then his overall ranking would be in the top 3. When he entered the academy, he would receive a reward for being in the top 3. The rewards from Senma College were very generous. "Now, let's announce the rankings," the red-robed elder said loudly. "The first in the second round is Lin Xian." What? Lin Xian? Everyone was stunned, especially those who were teleported out after Lin Xian. They all looked surprised, as if they had misheard. In their opinion, Murong Qingqing would definitely be the first because she had persevered until the end. Even Murong Qingqing herself was flabbergasted. She looked at Lin Xian with curiosity and amazement in her eyes. Xiao Li Lanbai and the other geniuses were also puzzled. "That's impossible. Wasn't that guy teleported out a long time ago? Elder, did you make a mistake?" Xin Yaotian shouted. He did not want Lin Xian to take advantage of a loophole and gain a huge advantage. Many other martial artists were also doubtful. However, some other martial artists were silent because they knew why Lin Xian was judged to be the first. Even the official disciples had strange expressions on their faces as they remained silent. The martial artists who were clamoring about the unfairness seemed to have noticed the situation and quickly asked about it. After learning the situation, they were all shocked. Gradually, the quarreling in the square quieted down. Xin Yaotian was still shouting, "I don't understand. Elder, please enlighten me." He would not let Lin Xian be the first. "Stop quarreling." The red-robed elder pressed his hands down and emitted a powerful aura. Suddenly, the whole square quieted down. Take a look at Lin Xian's mysterious jade platform and you will understand. Hearing that, everyone looked over and gasped in shock. Xin Yaotian's body stiffened and he stood there in a daze. The mysterious jade platform is broken? How is that possible? He naturally knew the function of the mysterious jade platform. It was impossible to break it, at least with their current strength and cultivation. It was impossible to break it. However, the mysterious jade platform that Lin Xian was sitting on was broken in half. That was too shocking. For a moment, Xin Yaotian's mind went blank and he was stunned. Murong Qingqing, Shaoli, and the others gasped. They had just experienced the illusionary realm and knew how dangerous it was. However, Lin Xian could break the mysterious jade platform. Did that mean that the illusionary realm did not affect him at all? If that was the case, it was too terrifying. After our analysis, we have decided that the first place is Lin Xian, the red-robed elder said. Anyone who is interested can raise the issue. Everyone was silent and no one spoke. What a joke. Lin Xian had even broken the mysterious jade platform. Who would dare to object? At this time, Xin Yaotian also recovered from the shock, but his expression was very ugly. Not long ago, he was still proud of himself. He thought that Lin Xian's willpower was weak and that he would be eliminated early. He did not expect that Lin Xian would not be affected at all. Not only did he obtain a piece of land, but he even broke the mysterious jade platform. Thinking back to his previous performance, he realized that he was like a clown. It was extremely laughable. Xin Yaotian's body trembled. He gritted his teeth and roared in a low voice, "After entering the academy, I will teach you a lesson." Murong Qingqing, on the other hand, looked at Lin Xian with joy in her eyes. It was not a big deal to her that she did not obtain the first place. However, this incident made her realize that Lin Xian was abnormal. This made her even more determined to subdue Lin Xian. Lin Xian seemed to feel Murong Qingqing's fiery gaze. He rubbed his nose helplessly. In the distance, Yan Qingyang's face was gloomy and he clenched his fists. He had already seen Murong Qingqing as his woman for a long time. But now, her performance had made him furious. Lin Xian, right? After entering the academy, I will teach you a lesson. Yan Qingyang snorted in his heart. Chapter 709. The old man in the red robe announced the rankings quickly. Lin Xian, Morong Qingcheng, Shao Li, and Shen Yaotian. Lan Bai occupied the top 5 spots. More than 500 people participated in the second round, but only about 200 people passed the second round. The elimination rate was terrifying. I'll give you an hour to rest and recuperate. After an hour, the third round will begin. The disciples who passed the test sat down cross-legged and began to recuperate. Although there was no battle in the second round, the experience in the illusion had greatly depleted their soul and mind. That process was 10 times more tiring than a battle. Therefore, everyone seized the time to recuperate and prepare for the third round. These people were all geniuses and had elixirs with them. An hour was enough for them to recuperate. Soon, these people opened their eyes, and their eyes shined with light as they excitedly looked forward to the third stage. As long as they passed the third round, they would be able to enter Senmu College. Once they entered Senmu College, their future would be limitless. An hour has passed. The third round will begin now. The old man in the red robe waved his sleeve, and a palm-sized, exquisite pagoda flew out. It spun in the air and gradually enlarged. Finally, it landed on the square with a boom. The pagoda was divided into 7 levels. It was covered in golden thorns and shone brightly. This is the trial pagoda. It is divided into 7 levels. Those who pass the first 3 levels will pass. Now the third round will begin. As the old man in the red robe finished speaking, the trial pagoda shone brightly. For doors opened in 4 directions on the first level. The cultivators who had successfully passed the second stage immediately dashed forward. Then, more than 200 people entered the trial pagoda. The third round was an actual battle. Of course, it was not a real battle between the candidates and real martial artists. Instead, it was a virtual battle using illusory array mystic treasures. Do not underestimate this kind of battle because it was more dangerous than a real battle. The opponents' levels were formed according to the martial artist's characteristics. There were 7 levels in the trial pagoda. Passing the first 3 levels was considered a success. More than 200 disciples entered the trial pagoda. Then, the door on the first level closed and the light dimmed. The trial pagoda stood in the square like a small golden mountain. Soon, everyone realized that the trial tower was different because the first floor showed 234 dots of light. They represented the 234 people who had just entered. Lin Xian followed everyone into the Tower of Trials and appeared in an independent space. In the boundless scarlet plains, the sky was somewhat gloomy and the wind was howling all around. If Lin Xian did not have a strong will, he would have thought that he had arrived at the scarlet plains. However, he knew that this was all an illusion. Then he was surprised again because he found that the wind shadow sword at his waist was gone, and the high-grade spirit rank inner armor on his body was also gone. What replaced it was an ordinary black armor and a black iron longsword. It seemed like he couldn't use his own treasures and could only use the weapons and armors provided by this space. Lin Xian seemed to understand the rules here. He gave it a try and found that he could use his spiritual energy to form a red lotus armor. In other words, his strength was not affected. However, he quickly removed the red lotus armor. According to his speculation, if he died here, it would only mean that he had failed the test. He would not really die. Therefore, Lin Xian would not miss such a wonderful opportunity to fight. He gave up on the red lotus armor and decided to use the most ordinary weapon to fight. A figure condensed on the scarlet plains in front of him. That person was also wearing black armor and holding a black iron sword. He wore a black mask on his face and looked like a messenger of the netherworld. Lin Xian could tell from the other party's aura that he was a half-step venerable one. Looks like the first floor is easy. Lin Xian smirked. A half-step venerable one was nothing to him. He held an ordinary black iron sword and drew a black bolt of lightning in the air, instantly stabbing the other party's throat. Poof! The black figure fell and turned into spiritual energy, disappearing from this space. However, two more figures soon condensed, a black sword and a black mask. They were both half-step, venerable ones. Lin Xian's expression did not change, and he continued to stab with his sword. The black iron sword moved in the air, instantly forming two sword shadows that stabbed towards the two black-clothed martial artists. Buzz! Bang! The two martial artists counterattacked, and one of them retreated like a black ghost. The other formed a seal with both hands, condensing an ancient shield in front of him that covered his entire body. Both of them were very fast and completed in an instant. However, Lin Xian's sword was even faster. Poof! Poof! The two figures fell and disappeared. Although the two of them counterattacked, the difference in strength between them was too great. They were not Lin Xian's match at all. However, Lin Xian was slightly surprised. That was because he realized that the two half-step venerable ones had begun to make the best adjustments to counter his attack. Lin Xian's sword was very sharp and fast. Therefore, one of them reacted quickly, while the other strengthened his defense. They were changing according to the characteristics of Lin Xian's sword technique. Interesting. I wonder what's going to happen next? Lin Xian was looking forward to it and continued to move forward. Soon his figure swayed and disappeared from the first level. In the outside world, countless people were staring at the trial tower in the center. They saw that all 234 light spots had arrived at the second level. However, some of those light spots were fast, some are slow, and some are fast. Did they pass the first level? Those people saw the changes in the light spots and discussed in low voices. They realized that after arriving at the second level, the changes in the light spots were even more obvious. A small portion of the light spots only paused for a moment on the second level and immediately rose to the third level. However, most of the light spots remained on the second level. Lin Xian was one of those people at the moment. He had already arrived at the third level. On the second level, there were 3 half-step venerable ones and 4 half-step venerable ones, respectively. For Lin Xian, who had condensed his martial soul, the battle was quickly resolved. On the third level, there were also black-clothed martial artists, but their cultivation had become first-level venerable ones. A venerable was already a powerhouse of a region. That was also the reason why Senmu College set the rule that as long as one passed the third level, one would be considered to have completed the trial. Defeated venerable ones were qualified to enter Senmu College. However, it was not easy to kill a venerable one. Most people would find it very difficult. Of course, Lin Xian was an exception. He had killed more than one venerable one. Therefore, he passed the third level easily. In the outside world, everyone exclaimed because they realized that a few light spots had quickly arrived at the fourth level. At that moment, most people were still struggling on the second level. They passed the third level so quickly. Everyone was shocked and could not believe it. Rumor has it that the opponents on the third level are first-level venerable ones. I didn't expect those people to finish them so quickly. Chapter 710. There were a total of 5 people who entered the fourth level first. They were the top 5 in the second round. These 5 people had condensed real martial souls and reached the venerable realm. In addition, they were geniuses and had mastered many secret martial arts, so it was easy for them to pass the third round. However, the fourth round was not so easy because there were 2 level 1 venerables. When 2 venerables joined forces, their attack power was absolutely terrifying. Although Lin Xian had killed venerables before, he had never killed 2 venerables at the same time. Even at the Divine Bird Palace, one person was sent out first. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. He knew that this was the beginning of the real battle. In the other illusory realms, the geniuses also looked solemn as they stared at their opponents. At this time, many light spots had entered the third level, but soon they disappeared. Then, figures were sent out of the trial and landed on the square. These people were pale and their breathing was chaotic. They were all warriors who had failed on the third level. Not everyone had reached the venerable realm. If one did not have the corresponding strength to face a real venerable, they would only be defeated. The third level was like a natural chasm, blocking the majority of martial artists outside the door. More and more warriors were sent out of the square. The spectators gasped. At the same time, they were even more shocked by the red spots on the fourth level. How powerful were they to be able to pass the third level in such a short time? In the fourth level, Lin Xian's figure was like a ghost. The black iron sword in his hand kept stabbing out like thunder, tearing the air apart. The two venerables on the other side were not weak. They quickly counterattacked. Terrifying light shrouded the surroundings. Every time they collided, the powerful energy produced a shocking explosion. The black iron sword was like a swimming dragon. Lin Xian used the great strength sword soul to fight against the two venerables. The wind whistled, the thunder was crazy, the sky was dark, and the earth was sinking. Fortunately, they were in an illusory realm. Otherwise, the entire square would be destroyed in one blow. Peacock Spreading Tail. One of the venerables shook his spear. The sky was full of dazzling spear flowers. Silver light flickered, like a peacock spreading its feathers in the air. A vast and terrifying aura instantly enveloped Lin Xian. Vermilion Bird Seal. Lin Xian struck out with his left hand, and a crimson vermilion bird flew out. Its entire body was bathed in fiery light as it soared into the sky. The two forces intertwined and continuously destroyed each other. At this moment, the other supreme expert's attack arrived. Dense blood palm. Bloody light surged and spread 3,000 meters, covering the entire sky. A bright red palm condensed and appeared above Lin Xian's head. Then it crashed down. Starburst. He raised his right hand and stabbed his sword into the sky. The black sword gleam shone brightly as sword chi gathered, pulling in the spiritual energy in the surroundings. It quickly condensed into a meteor. With a dazzling tail of light, it flew upwards. Boom! The black meteor collided with the blood-red palm. The palm closed its 5 fingers and grabbed it, then quickly smashed it down. Meteor sword chi exploded in midair. Terrifying sword waves swept out in all directions, turning into waves that could be seen by the naked eye. Kill! Lin Xian shouted angrily. He used the illusory demonic steps and rushed towards the two supreme experts. In his hand, the black iron sword was no longer ordinary. Streaks of blazing sword gleams soared into the sky, splitting the void and cutting the ground. They continuously bombarded the two supreme experts in black. Boom! 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 Every strike was fierce and violent to the extreme. Lin Xian was like a madman. The more he fought, the braver he became. In the end, he directly engaged in close combat. The iron sword was like a black, angry dragon. It roared ferociously as the dragon's sword soul was activated to the extreme. Poof! Finally, he found an opportunity to stab the Spear Supreme expert with the sword. The illusion was very realistic. Blood splattered everywhere as the sword slashed down. Woo-woo! After succeeding with one strike, Lin Xian stepped up his attack. The black iron sword turned into a poisonous dragon and chased after the supreme expert. 13 styles of Gale. Sword chi surged like a storm and quickly pierced towards the spear supreme expert. The void was pierced, and the terrifying sword gleam was unstoppable. Lin Xian's goal was simple. He wanted to kill one of them first before dealing with the other. Roar! The Spear Supreme expert was furious. A demonic peacock condensed on the tip of his spear. It was becoming more and more realistic. Poof! As the spear pierced out, the giant peacock attacked as well, making the power of the spear extremely terrifying. The 5-colored spear gleam created a demonic shadow in the air. It was like a surging divine light that rushed towards Lin Xian. Clang, clang, clang. Lin Xian swung his iron sword, forming a half-moon sword veil around his body. It was as if the moonlight scattered in front of him to protect him. The 5-colored spear gleam was blocked, but the other supreme expert behind him suddenly attacked. His palms were suffused with golden light. Lin Xian tried his best to dodge, but he was still swept in the shoulder. His body immediately smashed into the ground like a meteor. Boom! The ground trembled, and a terrifying, deep pit appeared. Whoosh! In the next moment, Lin Xian soared into the sky. His body was covered by a sword veil as he charged again. Although he was injured, he could not rest in this situation. He had to solve it as soon as possible. The dragon's sword soul roared, and the entire sky trembled. At this moment, Lin Xian's combat power was raised to the extreme. His entire body was like a divine sword. He stood in the void, and his body was emitting a dazzling light that lit up the dark sky. Lin Xian took a step forward and arrived in front of the Sanguine Palm Venerable in an instant. He swung his iron sword quickly. It was so fast that it was unbelievable. In an instant, it cut the Sanguine Palm Venerable's shoulder, revealing his terrifying white bones. Vermilion bird seal. At the same time, he formed a seal with his left palm and hit the Sanguine Palm Venerable's hand, sending him flying. The iron sword fell again like a black lightning bolt, cutting the Sanguine Palm Venerable apart. The first supreme expert was destroyed. Roar! The long spear Venerable roared and charged again with his spear. Squall style! Lin Xian raised his iron sword in the air and made a killing move. A gale blew, and a red storm blew on the Sanguine Plain as if it was going to tear the world apart. The mountain peak was shattered and the trees were blown away. Everything was destroyed wherever the red storm passed. In an instant, the long spear Venerable was covered and let out a miserable cry. The red storm was everywhere within 100-meter radius, and the entire ground caved in. However, before the power disappeared, Lin Xian's figure turned into a ray of light and disappeared. In the other illusory spaces, Morong Qingqing's jade-like palms shone as if they were the hands of God. She crushed a Venerable with one palm. Following that, she changed her palm into a finger and pointed it out. A thick finger light was like a flood dragon, and it was extremely terrifying. Soon, her figure also disappeared from the 4th level. The other people were still fighting bitterly. In the outside world, everyone waited patiently. Suddenly, they seemed to have noticed something and stood up excitedly. The 5th level. Someone appeared on the 5th level. There are 2 of them. Everyone was in an uproar. The difficulty of each level of the trial tower increased exponentially, and the 4th level was 10 times more difficult than the 3rd level. This was something that everyone knew. However, in such a short period of time, 2 people had successfully broken through. It was too unbelievable. Chapter 711. The changes in the trial tower caused a sensation among the crowd. 2 people entered the 5th level. One of them must be Morong Qingqing. Who is the other one? He's also so powerful. Everyone recognized Morong Qingqing's strength, but the other person was beyond their expectations. I guess it's Shan Yaotian. He's also a genius and comes from the House of Kings. His strength and trump cards are definitely extraordinary. Only he can stand shoulder to shoulder with Morong Qingqing. House of Kings. Everyone was shocked. Then they echoed. It was very likely. I wonder if they can pass the 5th level? Someone said worriedly. It's said that the opponents on the 5th level are 2nd Heaven Venerables. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to pass the 5th level. Morong Qingqing will definitely pass, but the other one might not. Everyone discussed and expressed their own opinions. The official disciples in the square were even more shocked. The strength of the disciples participating in the assessment this time was beyond their expectations, especially the two on the 5th level. They could be said to be terrifying. The group of elders from the academy were very satisfied. They stared at the trial tower with smiles. On the 5th level, Lin Xian was in great danger. This was the first time he faced a second Heaven Venerables head-on. Every attack from the other party made his blood boil and his body tremble. Was this the power of a second Heaven Venerables? Lin Xian was shocked. He only managed to fight against a second Heaven Venerables because he had an offensive saint technique like the great dragon Sword Soul. However, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Fortunately, the opponent was not a real human, but a simulation of spiritual power. Therefore, Lin Xian was still confident that he could hold on for a while. Gale style! The iron sword slashed out, and a red storm swept through the world, enveloping the opponent. The black-clothed Venerables' spiritual power jumped and formed an armor to resist the red storm. At the same time, he punched out with his fist, which smashed toward Lin Xian like a mountain. Once a second Heaven Venerables entered, their speed, strength, and defense would all surpass a first Heaven Venerables. Hence, under normal circumstances, a first-level Venerable would not be able to contend against a second-level Venerable. Fortunately, Lin Xian had many secret techniques as well as a powerful martial skill Sword Soul, so he was able to deal with them for a while. Lin Xian's figure turned into a sword light as he tried his best to dodge and engage in a fierce battle with the black-clothed Venerable. In another illusory realm, Murong Qingqing was also battling a second-level Venerable. The energy in the sky surged violently as countless afterimages flew around. A terrifying aura spread out between heaven and earth. Murong Qingqing was like a fairy descending from the heavens. She stepped on a jade lotus platform, and lotus flowers danced around her body. The sparkling and translucent petals spun rapidly, sometimes defending, sometimes attacking. Every time they collided, there would be a thunderous sound. Terrifying energy tore through the void and roared incessantly. Although Murong Qingqing was at a disadvantage, he did not show any signs of losing. While Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing were fighting against the second Heaven Honorable Realm, the other geniuses had also passed the test of the 4th level and reached the 5th level. However, when they reached the 6th level, things did not go so smoothly for them. The might of a second Heaven Venerate had completely suppressed them, causing them to be severely injured right from the start. Shun Yaotian's 108 starry halos shone brightly, making him look like a god of war. When he punched out, starry light filled the sky as countless meteorite-like fists struck the ground. However, this terrifying attack was shattered by the palm of the black-clothed Venerable. Shen Yaotian retreated as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock. However, as a genius and a disciple of the House of Kings, he would not be defeated so easily. He waved his hands, and a starry sky map appeared above him. It was extremely vast and shone with a mysterious light. Shen Yaotian held the starry sky map and charged toward the second Heaven Honorable Realm like a god of war. However, this terrifying attack was still sent flying by his opponent. It was not that he was weak, but that his opponent was too strong. The starry sky map dimmed and disappeared. Shen Yaotian spat out blood and was sent flying. On the other side, Shaoli was like a saber demon. He held a black iron saber in his hand and swung it wildly. Dazzling saber radiance swept out in all directions like waves, causing the entire void to boil. However, his opponent was too strong. The terrifying suppression made him feel helpless. A terrifying fist filled the entire sky and instantly shattered the saber radiance in the sky. At the same time, it charged toward Shaoli. Boom! Shaoli was hit hard and fell to the ground. In the last illusion, the blue and white palm kept changing seals. Huge poisonous scorpions, spiders, pythons, and all sorts of poisonous creatures flew out from the void and charged forward quickly. At the same time, he also condensed a poisonous cloud and floated over quickly. The surrounding air dimmed, and purplish-gray, poisonous gas filled the air. The surrounding plants and trees withered and died. Even the ground turned yellow as if it had lost its vitality. The terrifying poisonous gas swept through the entire space. The poisonous gas was too powerful. Those below the supremacy realm would definitely die upon contact. Even a first-level supremacy might not be able to resist it. However, his opponent was a second-level supremacy and was extremely powerful. Therefore, even though the blue and white palm had powerful poison, he was still defeated. Soon, the trial tower flickered and 3 figures were sent out of the square. When the crowd outside saw that 5 light spots had gathered on the 5th floor, they exclaimed excitedly. However, they soon realized that 3 of the light spots were quickly dimming and disappearing. In the end, a white light flashed and 3 figures appeared in the square. Did he fail? The crowd was puzzled. Then they heaved a sigh of relief. There was a huge difference between each level of the supremacy realm. Even prodigies would find it difficult to fight someone of a higher level. The trial tower restricts weapons. I'm afraid that these prodigies' strength has been reduced. Many martial artists analyzed. They knew that these prodigies would be even stronger in the real world. This was because they definitely had heaven-defying weapons in their hands that could increase their combat strength by several times. No, that's Shan Yaotian. Why is he out too? He was defeated too? Then who's still inside? The crowd was shocked. They realized that the situation was different from what they had expected. Lan Bai Shaoli. Soon, the crowd recognized the 3 figures that had been sent out. Then they gasped. The ones still on the 5th floor are Morong Qingqing and Lin Xian. Lin Xian! After Shen Yaotian understood the situation, his face was terrifyingly gloomy. He stared at the trial tower with a murderous look in his eyes. He was shocked that Lin Xian had not come out yet. He must have just gone in. Just wait and see. He'll come out soon. Shen Yaotian comforted himself. The results of the 3rd round were based on how long one stayed in the trial tower. For example, on the 5th floor, if one stayed for 1 minute and the other party stayed for 2 minutes, the one who stayed for 2 minutes would naturally be ranked higher. Although Shan Yaotian had been sent out early, he still had a glimmer of hope. Lin Xian had just entered the 5th floor. If that was the case, then the situation was not too bad. According to his analysis, Lin Xian would definitely fail and be sent out soon. The surrounding people were also whispering because they did not know if Lin Xian was one of the 2 light spots that had entered first or later. However, no matter what, Lin Xian's strength was already very strong and had shocked everyone. Chapter 712. On the 5th level of the trial tower, Lin Xian was like a sword god, surrounded by a huge sword chi. He stood in the air with a solemn expression. It was a rare experience to fight against a 2nd-level supremacy without any scruples. Therefore, in order to prolong the battle, Lin Xian activated the Red Lotus armor. The bright red armor covered his entire body, and the red lotus on it swayed as if it was alive. With the Red Lotus armor, Lin Xian's defense increased by a lot, and it was not as difficult to deal with him as before. At the same time, he abandoned the black iron sword and held the sword of massacre and sword of nirvana with both hands. With the 2 auras surrounding him, Lin Xian was like the god of slaughter from hell as he stepped through the air. He did not hold back in this battle. Kill! With a furious roar, his body was like a bolt of lightning. He took a step forward and arrived in front of the black-clothed supremacy in an instant. The 2 swords in his hands quickly stabbed out. The sword of massacre and sword of nirvana were very powerful. In fact, they were not just sword intents, but had their own concepts. Although the intent of massacre and intent of nirvana were not complete, they still had their own charm. The black sword chi surged with an aura of death and nirvana. It covered half of the sky, and wherever it passed, the vegetation would wither. Although the black-clothed supremacy was not a real life, he was still formed by spiritual power. This sword also affected him, and his body became a little dim. However, as a second-level supremacy, he was not so easily killed. His palm was like a knife. When it fell, the entire space seemed to be cut open, and the aura of nirvana was also ruthlessly cut off. At this moment, the bright red long sword had already slashed down, accompanied by the sea of blood that filled the sky. The crazy murderous aura swept in all directions, causing the entire sky to turn scarlet. At this moment, there seemed to be only one sound left in the world, and that was to kill, 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 to your heart's content. The bright red long sword slashed down mercilessly from the sky. Clang! The black-clothed supremacy did not have any emotions. He was like a killing machine. He threw a punch, which collided with the sword and made a shocking sound. The sea of blood in the sky surged and was sent flying. Lin Xian was hit, and his qi and blood surged. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Meanwhile, the other party was similarly blasted backwards, causing the void to collapse. If someone else was here, they would definitely cry out in surprise. Lin Xian had actually pushed his second-rank Venerable Master away. This was unbelievable. However, Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn because he discovered that the other party did not suffer any substantial damage. It seemed like he had no choice but to combine the two swords. In the next moment, Lin Xian clasped his hands together. The pitch-black longsword and the blood-red sword in his hands fused into a red-black demonic sword. Death and slaughter fused together to form a true demonic sword. At the same time, Lin Xian used a killer move, falling stars from heaven. This move was extremely powerful. It was a martial skill that Lin Xian had been practicing ever since he started cultivating. Once he used it, no one had ever been able to dodge it. His body turned into a stream of light. Lin Xian held the demon sword in his hand and quickly stabbed forward. It was too fast. Lin Xian was so fast that he didn't even leave a trace in the sky. Lin Xian had already arrived in front of the black-robed Venerable. Puff! Finally, it pierced through the man's armor and into his chest. Blood spurted out in all directions. The black-robed Venerable roared angrily. He waved his palms and slammed them heavily into Lin Xian's chest, sending him flying. Boom! Lin Xian was hit head-on. He was sent flying thousands of feet away and crashed into a huge mountain. In an instant, the huge mountain crumbled, forming countless rocks that drowned him. Boom! In the next moment, countless huge sword chi rushed out and sliced the huge mountain apart, forming a spacious area. Lin Xian, on the other hand, crawled up from the rubble, gasping for breath and coughing out large amounts of blood. Countless cracks appeared on the red lotus armor in front of his chest like a spider web. Especially on his chest, there were 2 deep palm prints. This palm was too terrifying. Several of Lin Xian's ribs were broken, and his internal organs were severely damaged. Fortunately, he had the red lotus armor. Otherwise, this palm would have blown him up. Damn it, what a troublesome fellow. Lin Xian spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were cold. On the other side, the black-robed Venerable was not in a good state either. The great dragon, Sword Soul, was too powerful. Lin Xian's attack was enough to break through his defense. Moreover, the red-black demonic sword was even more strange. Coupled with a powerful martial technique, falling stars, he was severely injured. A red-black demonic sword was stabbed into his chest. It emitted a murderous and deathly aura that constantly attacked his body. Roar! The black-robed Venerable's hair was disheveled. He roared angrily. A powerful force burst out from his body and sent the demonic sword flying. The wound on his chest could not be healed immediately. That was the remnant aura of the great dragon sword soul. Unless there was a special method, it would be difficult to remove the aura of the great dragon sword soul in a short period of time. The black-robed venerable used his method to madly absorb the surrounding spiritual qi to suppress his injuries. In the distance, Lin Xian also roared. He opened his mouth and sucked in the air. The spiritual qi in the air surged, forming a mighty waterfall of spiritual qi that was thousands of meters long. It quickly entered Lin Xian's body. Then he used the longevity incantation and displayed his powerful recovery ability to quickly repair the injuries on his body. In the next moment, a dazzling light burst out from his eyes. His hands danced. Golden lightning danced in his left hand and condensed into a golden bow. The wind concept in his right hand quickly circulated and formed a green arrow. Ancient secret art, clear wind bow. In the next moment, the power of wind and thunder surged in the void. The terrifying attack was like a shocking rainbow, leaving behind afterimages of wind and thunder. Like afterimages of wind and thunder, it instantly pierced toward the black-robed venerable. Boom! The terrifying power not only interrupted the black-robed venerable's recovery, but it also worsened his injuries. In the next moment, Lin Xian's injuries were mostly healed. His expression was cold, wearing a bright red armor. He slowly walked over like a fiend god. On the armor, the original red color mixed with the flowing blood. It looked even more demonic. The red lotus seemed to be coming to life. His eyes were like lightning. The great dragon sword soul on Lin Xian's body surged, forming a terrifying force as if it was about to awaken. Boom! Boom! With every step Lin Xian took, the ground would tremble. It was as if the one walking was not Lin Xian but an ancient giant. An oppressive and heavy aura filled the entire space, making it difficult for people to breathe. Although the black-robed venerable was not a real person, he could still feel the oppressive aura at this moment. He roared angrily, and his body also emitted a terrifying aura to fight back. However, he was injured, and the great dragon sword soul in his body was destroyed. In addition, Lin Xian was too strong now. For a moment, he was at a disadvantage. If someone knew about this, their jaws would definitely drop. Lin Xian was actually suppressing a second-stage venerable. Boom! Boom! With every step Lin Xian took, his aura became stronger. The great dragon sword soul also roared to the sky. Then, a dragon-shaped sword shadow condensed in front of him. It was illusory at first, but as the great dragon sword soul roared, it became more and more real. Seeing the dragon-shaped sword shadow, the black-robed venerable roared uneasily. It was as if he was instinctively afraid of it. Chapter 713. In the next moment, he ignored his injuries and attacked in a frenzy. A terrifying aura condensed and formed a fist that smashed towards Lin Xian. Above the fist, there was a wolf head formed by spiritual energy. It roared ferociously and carried the aura of a martial soul. This attack was enough to easily kill a first-rank honorable martial artist. However, Lin Xian did not dodge. He slowly held the dragon-shaped sword in front of him. The energy in his body roared and surged into the dragon-shaped sword. Lin Xian's heart thumped wildly. He felt as though he was being sucked dry. Feeling the loss of energy in his body, Lin Xian did not hesitate and quickly swung the dragon-shaped sword. Buzz! The sword qi was dazzling. It was as though a real dragon was swimming in the void. The terrifying energy cut the entire sky in half. Boom! The real dragon-shaped sword collided with the wolf head fist. The terrifying energy instantly filled the entire space. Light flashed and a storm swept across. Drowning everything, the light flickered and the space swayed. A gust of wind came from nowhere and blew away the dust and fog. Lin Xian knelt on one knee with his sword in hand. He was panting and his face was unusually pale. In front of him, the ground was split open. The terrifying crack extended as far as the eye could see. The aura of the black-shirt honorable martial artist had disappeared. Lin Xian's mouth twitched. The attack just now was a sword shadow formed by the great dragon's sword soul. It was extremely terrifying. However, the energy consumption was even more shocking. Lin Xian was almost sucked dry. He originally thought that the meteor shower was the most energy-consuming move. He did not expect it to be so lacking compared to the dragon-shaped sword shadow. He sat down cross-legged and wanted to recover. At this moment, a white light flashed and Lin Xian left the 5th level. At the same time, in another illusory space, Murong Qingqing was sweating profusely. Behind her, a human figure gradually disappeared. In front of her was the black-shirt honorable martial artist who had collapsed. With a flash of white light, she also left the 5th level. In the outside world, the crowd was in an uproar. They saw the 2 light spots on the 5th level disappear at almost the same time and appear on the 6th level. They passed. They passed. Countless people went crazy. Even the official disciples were stunned and could not believe it. Yan Qingyang's face was gloomy and he was furious. The woman he liked had entered the 6th level with his love rival. This made him feel an indescribable anger. At the same time, he also felt a trace of fear towards Lin Xian. One had to know that the 5th level was the 2nd level of the Venerable Realm, yet the other party had actually been able to break through. This was truly beyond his expectations. However, he was not afraid because he had also passed the 5th level back then. Moreover, the years of training at Senma College had made him even stronger. Therefore, he was confident in dealing with Lin Xian. Shin Yaotian was stunned. Impossible, this is impossible. He roared in his heart, unable to accept this fact. This was a huge blow to him. He had entered the 5th level and hadn't persevered for long before coming out. Yet the other party had actually passed. The gap between them was self-evident. For a moment, all kinds of disappointment and frustration welled up in his heart. Shin Yaotian felt his vision darken, and he almost fainted from anger. Tower of Trials, 6th floor. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched as he smiled helplessly. In front of him, 2 2nd-level venerables stood proudly with cold expressions. Furthermore, his spiritual power was depleted and he was injured. It would be good if he could fight with half of his strength. Moreover, the 2 2nd-level venerables teaming up was 10 times more difficult than the 5th level. Even if Lin Xian was at his peak, it would be impossible for him to pass, let alone now that he was severely injured and exhausted. However, as a swordsman, it was not his style to give up without a fight. Therefore, in this battle, even if he had to bleed to the last drop of blood, he would give it his all. With a long sword in hand, Lin Xian walked up step by step. On the other side, Murong Qingqing was also under great threat. Behind her, an illusory figure flickered and emitted a terrifying aura, as if it had traveled through time and space from the ancient times. However, the 2 venerables teaming up was too powerful. Even if Murong Qingqing was extremely powerful, she was no match for them. However, in the next moment, a strange inscription flashed between her eyebrows. It emitted a dazzling light, and a terrifying power was emitted. That power made the 2 venerables feel uneasy. However, Murong Qingqing thought for a moment and finally hid the mysterious inscription. She did not attack again. Outside, everyone waited anxiously, their eyes fixed on the 6th level of the trial tower. In the next moment, the 2 light spots disappeared. Then a white light flashed, and 2 figures appeared in the square. They're out, they're finally out. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They knew that the 2 of them had failed the 6th challenge. However, this was already very terrifying. One had to know that the 6th level was guarded by 2 2nd-level venerables. It would be abnormal if the two of them really succeeded. Murong Qingqing's white clothes were whiter than snow. Although her aura was a little chaotic and weak, it could not hide her beautiful posture. As for Lin Xian, he immediately sat cross-legged in the square as soon as he appeared. His hands formed a seal, as if he had entered a cultivation state. The two figures attracted everyone's attention, especially Murong Qingqing. Most of the male cultivators were looking at her. Murong Qingqing had long been accustomed to the burning gazes of the surrounding cultivators. Ever since she was born, she had been surrounded by countless gazes like this. Until now, she had completely ignored them. Perhaps only someone like Lin Xian, who had a normal demeanor and was somewhat resistant, could arouse her interest. Murong Qingqing tilted her head slightly and looked at Lin Xian. Then, a trace of surprise appeared on her beautiful face. Is he about to break through? Sure enough, a powerful aura rose from Lin Xian's body. A huge spirit energy vortex appeared above his head. Countless amounts of spirit energy flowed into Lin Xian's body like an upside-down galaxy. In the next moment, Lin Xian opened his eyes. His gaze was like two sword rays, vast and mighty, piercing through the void. His body was filled with a powerful force. However, everyone's eyes were filled with doubt, which then turned into shock. How is this possible? The limit of the spirit detecting realm. Heavens, how is this possible? Everyone was stunned. They did not expect Lin Xian to only be at the limit of the spirit detecting realm. Furthermore, this cultivation had just broken through. Many people's minds went blank. They could not believe the facts in front of them. Not only them, but everyone was also stunned. Previously, Lin Xian had used a special method to hide his cultivation, coupled with the fluctuations of his martial soul. Everyone thought that he was a young martial artist who had reached the venerable realm. Now, they realized that Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the peak of the spirit detecting realm. Such a cultivation was too ordinary, but he had passed the 5th level of the trial. He had even lasted long enough on the 6th level to be teleported out together with Murong Qingqing. How is this possible? Everyone felt like their heads were about to explode. Martial soul. He must have a martial soul. He's a fake, venerable one. Everyone discussed in shock. Martial artists who had condensed a martial soul but had not reached the venerable realm were called fake, venerable ones. They had seen such venerable ones before, but no one was as powerful as Lin Xian. The academy elders were also shocked. This little guy is too unexpected. It's really rare for a fake, venerable one to reach this level. Chapter 714. Congratulations, you've broken through again. Murong Qingqing smiled at Lin Xian. This smile stunned everyone. It was as if the entire world had become incomparably beautiful. It's all right, I was just lucky. Lin Xian shrugged. Everyone was startled awake. They were jealous and envious. They wished they could transform into Lin Xian and chat with Murong Qingqing. The eyes of Yan Qingyang, Shen Yaotian, and the rest were spitting fire. Murderous intent surged from their bodies as they wished they could tear Lin Xian apart. Especially Yan Qingyang. His eyes were cold as he roared in his heart. How dare a fake honorable warrior steal my woman? Kid, I'll teach you how to behave after entering the school. With so many people and elders present, he could not do anything to Lin Xian. However, as long as Lin Xian entered the school, he would have plenty of chances. Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing walked to the edge of the crowd, waiting for the end of the 3rd round. 2 hours later, all the light spots in the Tower of Trials disappeared. Everyone was transported out. At this point, the 3 rounds of assessment had ended. The entrance exam also came to an end. The martial artists who passed the 3 rounds were in high spirits. They danced with joy because they could finally enter Senmu College. As for the strong disciples who were ranked at the top, they began to calculate their rankings. What reward will you exchange for this time? Murong Qingqing looked at Lin Xian. Reward? What reward? What's there? Lin Xian was puzzled. You don't know? Murong Qingqing said, the top 10 will all receive admission rewards. The top 3 will receive even more generous rewards. They will probably be rewarded with martial arts. Martial arts? What level? Lin Xian sighed in his heart. Yu Fei had the ability to gather information, but compared to Murong Qingqing, he was much weaker. It seemed that he still had a long way to go before he could establish his own power. Half-Earth rank martial arts. It was passed down from ancient times. Its power is not inferior to the current Earth rank martial arts. Half-Earth tier martial art. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He didn't expect to receive such a big gift right after entering the academy. Now, I'll announce the rankings of this assessment. Hearing the red-robed old man's words, the surrounding martial artists couldn't help but become excited. Those martial artists who had passed the test also pricked up their ears. In fact, they had already estimated the rankings in private. After all, the rankings of the 3 stages were there. No matter how they ranked, the top 3 would still be the same people. The ranking this time is a little special. There are 2 people in first place. 2 people. Hearing this, everyone trembled and listened carefully. Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing were first in the first 2 stages, and they both persisted until the end of the 3rd stage. Therefore, their rankings are the same. They are both first. Whoosh! Everyone was in an uproar. Even though they had made some calculations in private before, they were still incomparably shocked when the academy elder announced it. This was a little different from their predictions. They thought that Lin Xian would be able to get 2nd or 3rd place, but they didn't expect him to be first. They knew that Murong Qingqing was powerful and outstanding, but this was the first time Lin Xian appeared in front of them. He was also a fake honorable martial artist. To be able to get first place this time was beyond everyone's expectations. Humph! Shen Yaotian snorted coldly. His handsome face couldn't be any darker. The 3rd place is Shaoli, the red-robed old man said loudly again. Because it was a double first place, there was no 2nd place. The 3rd place was obtained by Shaoli, which was well-deserved. After the announcement of the top 3, many people sighed, because the rewards for the top 3 were very generous. Not only were there elixirs, but there were also some half-Earth rank martial arts. That was the most tempting thing. Shen Yaotian couldn't get into the top 3. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. Firstly, it was because of the half-Earth rank martial arts. Furthermore, he felt that he had lost face. One had to know that he came from the House of Kings and had always been pursuing Murong Qingqing. He thought that he was the only one who was worthy of her. But now, Lin Xian had surpassed him. Moreover, Murong Qingqing's attitude towards Lin Xian was somewhat ambiguous. This undoubtedly deeply provoked him. Boy, wait until the freshman competition. I'll let you know how powerful I am. Shen Yaotian gritted his teeth. Next, the red-robed old man announced the rankings of the next few people. Among them, Shen Yaotian was ranked 4th, and the 5th was the youth named Lan by who used poison. After the rankings were announced, the red-robed old man said again, I'll give you 1 day to deal with all kinds of things. Gather here tomorrow morning. Yes, everyone was excited and then left. Brother Xian, congratulations. Yu Fei ran over excitedly. He knew that Lin Xian was powerful, but he didn't expect him to get first place. Let's go. We'll talk when we get back. Lin Xian greeted Murong Qingqing and Shaoli, then left with Yu Fei. Lin Xian and Yu Fei didn't return to the storm courtyard. Instead, they went to their new residence in Sky Pool City. It was a small courtyard. Although it wasn't big, it was convenient and quiet. Moreover, it wasn't cheap to buy a courtyard in a place like Skypool City. After entering the courtyard, Lin Xian asked the Crimson Dragon to set up a defensive array around the courtyard to ensure Yu Fei's safety. The Crimson Dragon was an expert in setting up the array, so he quickly finished setting it up. Those below the Venerable Realm couldn't break it at all. Even a first-level Venerable would need to spend some effort to break it. For Yu Fei, it was enough. Then Lin Xian took out some pills and spirit wine that he had refined, as well as some spirit-rank cultivation techniques and artifacts, and threw them to Yu Fei. Right now, you should focus on your cultivation and increase your strength, Lin Xian said. Thank you, Brother Xian. Yu Fei looked at the things on the ground and was very excited. Brother Xian, what else do you need me to do? For missions, first, find out why the Palace of War is closed. Second, find out the terrain and power situation of Skypool City. Third, organize the information about the Azure Red Society, their headquarters and branches. The more detailed, the better. Fourth, find out if there are any weapon refining grandmasters in the lower blood realm. If there are, remember the information. These 4 missions were related to his future plans, so Lin Xian handed them to Yu Fei. Don't worry, Brother Xian. Yu Fei patted his chest and promised. Lin Xian nodded. I just entered the academy, so I might not come out for a while, so you can only rely on yourself during this period of time. If there's any trouble, inject your spirit energy into this jade pendant and I'll know. Lin Xian handed over another jade pendant. This jade pendant was also made by the Crimson Dragon. There was an information transmission array inside. Once spirit energy was injected, the other party would know. Yu Fei took it and carefully put it away. Then the Crimson Dragon created an array disk that allowed Yu Fei to control the array. Oh right, Brother Xian, since you want to develop your power, what do you want to name it? Name. Lin Xian rubbed his chin. Let's call it Dragon Sword Pavilion. He rose up with the great Dragon Sword spirit, so he took this name. Dragon Sword Pavilion. Good name. Yu Fei clapped his hands. I believe that this name will spread throughout the entire blood realm. The next day, Lin Xian left the courtyard and headed to the plaza of Skypool City. When he arrived, there were already quite a few people in the plaza. There were more than 1,000 people who participated in the exam yesterday, but only 138 people succeeded in the end. The elimination rate was very terrifying. Soon, more than 100 people gathered. At this time, the red-robed elder appeared again. Chapter 715. Over 100 young martial artists gathered at the square of Skypool City and waited quietly. Not long after, the space above the square distorted and an old man appeared. It was the red-robed elder from before. Everyone, let's go. Under his lead, the crowd quickly set off for Senmu College. Soon, they arrived at their destination. Looking ahead, the crowd was excited. Lin Xian took a deep breath and looked ahead with a burning gaze. There were 2 gigantic bronze doors that were 100 feet tall. They were like 2 huge mountains that had stood tall for thousands of years. Lin Xian exclaimed. He had never seen such majestic doors before. He could feel a surge of power and a faint vicissitude aura from them. The red-robed elder struck out a series of seals, and the gigantic bronze doors slowly opened. Everyone couldn't help but rush forward. Lin Xian was also excited as he walked toward the gigantic bronze doors. He had finally entered the sacred cultivation ground of Tianmu Continent. Senmu College was huge, and one couldn't see the end of it. Halls and pavilions were scattered all over the place. Mountains and waterfalls filled the area. Spiritual trees and spiritual herbs could be seen everywhere. Spiritual birds and spiritual beasts roamed freely. They weren't afraid of humans at all. The entire Senmu College was like a paradise on earth. It was filled with spiritual energy everywhere. "Let's go. You are the latest batch of new students," the red-robed elder said. "There are new students. Aren't we the only ones?" Someone was puzzled. "You are only taking the test in Sky Pool City. There are also tests in other regions of Tianwu continent. As long as you pass the tests, you can still enter Tianwu College," the red-robed elder explained. After understanding the situation, the crowd continued forward. "Look, what's that?" someone exclaimed. Everyone looked up. Lin Xian also turned his head curiously. Between the mountains, there was a huge black tortoise prostrating there. On its back was a black stone tablet that was 100 feet tall. Names were carved on the stone tablet, and they were shining brightly. "What's that?" The crowd was shocked when they saw the majestic scene. Lin Xian squinted his eyes. He saw 3 powerful ancient words on the right side of the black stone tablet. "Mystic Honored Roll." "That's right. This is the mysterious sovereign leaderboard," the red-robed old man explained. "This is a ranking created by the Academy for disciples below the 3rd heaven of the Exalt realm. As long as one enters the Martial Venerate realm, one will have the right to be listed on the list. However, the Mystic Venerate ranking only records the top 100 in the Academy. Top 100 under the 3rd heaven of the Venerable realm." Lin Xian was astonished. His current strength was equivalent to that of a 1st heaven Venerable Tier Peak stage cultivator. He wondered what rank he would be ranked at. "Little fellows, if you have the strength, then go all out to fight for the rankings." The red-robed old man smiled and said, "Because the rankings are related to your spiritual value points." "Spiritual value points?" Lin Xian was also puzzled. "Spiritual value points are very important. We'll talk about the details later." The red-robed elder smiled mysteriously. At the side, Murong Qingqing opened her red lips and said, "It is said that spiritual value points can be exchanged for all cultivation resources. Even Earth rank martial arts and half-Earth rank treasures can be exchanged for. Therefore, in Senmu College, other than life, spiritual value points are the most important. Exchange for Earth rank martial arts." Lin Xian was shocked. He knew how precious and powerful Earth rank martial arts were. He had exchanged his life for Earth rank martial arts. However, he did not expect that he could exchange for them here. As expected of Senmu College, it was indeed domineering. Then, what are the strength of those fellows on the mysterious Venerable ranking? Lin Xian asked again. "It is very difficult for ordinary 1st Heaven Venerables to be on the ranking, unless they are at the peak of the 1st Heaven Venerable tier." Murong Qingqing's expression was solemn. "It is said that the top 10 are all at the peak of the 2nd Heaven Venerable tier. Even the 1st is a 3rd Heaven Venerable tier." 3rd Heaven. Lin Xian was surprised. There are actually students who have reached the 3rd Heaven. They are really powerful. One had to know that it was very difficult to advance in the Venerable realm. For example, in the Sand region, the elders of a family were 1st Heaven Venerables. A 2nd Heaven Venerable tier could probably suppress an area. However, there were actually 3rd Heaven Venerables here. Moreover, they were students. That meant that they were not too old. It was very likely that they were very young. Number 1. Lin Xian looked at the mysterious Venerable ranking. He saw that the number 1 name on the black stone tablet was shining with a golden light. Duguoutian. At that moment, the others saw this name as well and immediately trembled. It was as if a heavy force was pressing down on their heads, making it impossible for them to turn around. "Looks like we have to enter the Venerable realm as soon as possible." Lin Xian felt a sense of pressure. Everyone left and followed the red-robed elder. However, they all had a common goal in their hearts, and that was the mysterious Venerable ranking. Under the red-robed elder's lead, they arrived in front of a majestic hall. The hall was magnificent, like a huge city. There were countless obscure lights flickering around it. The power that was unconsciously released made Lin Xian and the others tremble. "What a terrifying formation!" Lin Xian exclaimed. His soul power was outstanding, so he could feel the terror within. This hall was probably very important. Otherwise, it would be impossible to set up such a powerful formation. Lin Xian guessed, the Four Spirits Extermination Formation. "I didn't expect it to be such a formation." The Crimson Dragon exclaimed. "You know it?" Lin Xian asked. "Of course. This formation is extremely terrifying. Even a king would not dare to enter it." The Crimson Dragon said. "It can trap a king." Lin Xian was shocked. He knew that the formation was powerful, but he did not expect it to be this powerful. The red-robed elder brought Lin Xian and the others to the front of the hall. There were already many people gathered there. Lin Xian looked around and realized that there were 3 teams led by 3 elders. "Are these the other new students?" Lin Xian guessed. Indeed, his guess was right. The new students who had arrived first turned around and looked at Lin Xian and the others with sharp gazes. It seemed that after learning about the mysterious venerable ranking, these fellows' inner competitiveness and arrogance had been stimulated. Among them, most of them were looking at Morong Qingcheng. The fire in their eyes was not hidden at all. However, when they saw Lin Xian next to her, they all frowned. A few of them even snorted coldly with a hint of warning in their eyes. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. "Can you pretend that you don't know me?" "Why?" Morong Qingcheng tilted her head and acted like a little girl. "Are you afraid of them?" This woman. Lin Xian rubbed his temples. Was she trying to provoke them? Indeed, when they saw Morong Qingcheng acting so intimately with Lin Xian, the eyes of the young men opposite them were spitting fire. The female students were so angry that they rolled their eyes, their hearts filled with jealousy. Among them, a young girl wearing fiery red leather armor stared at Morong Qingcheng. Her eyes were filled with a fighting spirit that was not inferior to a man's. There was a layer of crimson glazed light shining on her body. Lin Xian raised his head to look and was instantly stunned. Chapter 716. The girl had slender legs, a slim waist, and a voluptuous figure. Her fiery red leather armor accentuated her impressive figure. Otherwise, she would still have a delicate and beautiful face. Her fiery red hair fluttered in the wind, giving her an indescribably hot aura. Morong Qingcheng was quiet and elegant like a fairy, while the girl was hot and full of youthfulness. At that moment, all the male disciples were looking at Morong Qingcheng and the fiery red girl. Lin Xian looked carefully and found that not only was the girl's face and figure superb, but her aura was also surging. She had definitely reached the honorable realm. Moreover, she looked like a powerhouse among the honorable realm. She was definitely the darling of heaven and earth. She's called Dongfang Phoenix. She's very strong and comes from the Dongfang clan. She was born with the ability to control fire. The Dongfang clan? Yes, the hidden house of kings, Morong Qingcheng explained. Hiss! Lin Xian took a deep breath. Another house of kings. It seemed that these prodigies had extraordinary backgrounds. For such people to come to Senma College, it was enough to show how powerful and mysterious Senma College was. In the distance, the girl called Dongfang Phoenix felt Lin Xian's gaze and immediately snorted. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger as she glared back at him. Ugh! Lin Xian was sweating. She really had a bad temper, as if she felt Lin Xian's cultivation aura. Dongfang Phoenix showed a trace of disdain and quickly looked at Morong Qingcheng. She had heard of Goddess Morong's reputation long ago, but she was not convinced. Therefore, when they met, she developed a strong sense of hostility. Morong Qingcheng smiled faintly, then continued to whisper to Lin Xian. If he guessed correctly, Dongfang Phoenix was the first in that team. As for the other two teams, the one on the left was called Huang Lei, and the one on the right was called Zhou Su. Both of them were very strong and should not be underestimated. Lin Xian looked in the direction of the voice and saw a robust young man standing in the group on the left. His muscles were as hard as rocks, full of sharp edges. Looking from afar, it didn't seem like a person, but a mountain, a huge mountain. It gave off a boundless sense of oppression. In the group on the right, there was a young man in a black robe. He stood with his hands behind his back and his chin slightly raised. He looked at the sky as if he did not care about anyone. Lin Xian felt that the person looked very familiar, but he couldn't recall who it was. The young man suddenly turned his head and stared at Lin Xian with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. Then he seemed to have thought of something. "It's you? You know me?" Lin Xian asked. "Of course. My younger sister lost you back then. This time I will avenge her." The black-robed young man's voice was cold. He looked at Lin Xian with hostility. "Younger sister?" Lin Xian was puzzled. He couldn't remember, but the other party's aura was very familiar. The peak of the spirit detecting realm. Zhou Su was slightly stunned. Then he sneered disdainfully. "Looks like you haven't been doing well these years." "I really don't know how my younger sister could lose to someone like you." Hearing this, the others looked at Lin Xian. Their eyes were full of disdain and ridicule. After all, the peak of cultivation was nothing here. Their bodies weren't even considered the lowest level. "This guy is so weak. How did he get in? He couldn't have gotten in through the back door, right?" The cultivators of the other 3 groups discussed. However, no one in Lin Xian's group dared to laugh because they had witnessed Lin Xian's strength with their own eyes. Lin Xian frowned. Were these people idiots? They only looked at the surface cultivation. We'll know whether I'm strong or not after a battle. Who wants to give it a try?" Lin Xian swept his gaze across the crowd with a sharp gaze. He wasn't someone who would back down. Moreover, he didn't plan to back down after coming here. Lin Xian's gaze carried a trace of the Sword Soul's aura. It was so sharp that it almost cut open the void. At this moment, the cultivators who were swept by his gaze suddenly trembled in fear. "How is this possible? I'm actually afraid? What a terrifying gaze! Did this guy hide his strength?" Many people were frightened and didn't dare to provoke him. Zhou Su was also surprised. This kind of gaze wasn't a threat to him. However, the Sword Soul's aura contained in it made him wary. Hiding his strength. Interesting, but that's it. Zhou Su looked down. "You'll know if it's interesting after you try." Lin Xian took a step forward. The aura on his body suddenly changed. An unusually sharp aura surged out, causing the surrounding air to surge and the sky to tremble. It was as if it was cut open by a peerless divine sword. Suddenly, everyone was stunned. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at this scene in disbelief. Lin Xian's aura was so sharp that they couldn't bear it. Even Dongfang Phoenix was surprised. Her beautiful eyes turned and stared at Lin Xian. This aura was enough to threaten her. "It seems that I've underestimated him before." Feeling Lin Xian's aura, Zhou Su's face darkened. His gaze was cold as he looked ahead. No one dared to provoke him like this. Ding! 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 Sparks collided in the void, and the air rippled. Each ripple contained a terrifying, murderous intent. "I'm curious, what kind of strength do you have that makes you so arrogant?" The two of them were tit for tat. They were like two divine swords confronting each other. Countless tiny sword auras surged, forming a terrifying field that made the place extremely dangerous. "Stop!" The red-robed elder shouted in a low voice. With a wave of his sleeve, he broke the invisible sword aura field. Fighting is prohibited in front of the true spirit hall. If you want to fight, the freshman assembly is your battlefield. The freshman assembly. Many people pricked up their ears and became excited. This was definitely a good opportunity to show off in Senmu College. Very well, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. Wait until the freshman assembly. You'll know how stupid you are. Lin Xian retracted his aura. You're courting death. Zhou Su's face darkened. This was what he should have said. Humph. Strength is not something you can say. When the time comes, I'll let you know what it means to be strong. All right, now follow me into the true spirit hall, the red-robed elder said. Then he joined forces with the other 3 elders to open the door of the true spirit hall. Everyone followed behind cautiously. This time, we came to the true spirit hall to broaden your horizons. At the same time, we'll make immortal martial spirit tablets for you to become real members of Senmu College. Then the 4 elders entered the hall, took out a crystal jade tablet half the size of a palm, and threw it into the sky. Everyone 1 tablet. Drip your blood essence and engrave your soul mark. Looking at the immortal martial spirit tablets that were like a rain of light, everyone moved. Lin Xian waved his hand, grabbed a crystal tablet, and operated according to the rules. Drip his blood essence and engrave his soul mark. Soon, the immortal martial spirit tablet bloomed with light and flew toward Lin Xian. Grabbing the tablet, Lin Xian felt as if he had become one with it. He looked at it carefully and found that the words Immortal Martial were engraved on the front of the tablet. Behind it was his name. Chapter 717. With the immortal martial spirit tablet, he would be an official disciple of Senmu College from now on. Lin Xian noticed that the others were studying the spirit tablet in their hands, so he curiously poured his spirit energy into it. Immediately, the immortal martial spirit tablet bloomed with light, forming a small light screen in the air. Above the light screen, there were all sorts of words and images. Lin Xian raised his head and looked over. Surging wave sword technique, water attribute sword technique. Sword chi is like the waves of the sea, rolling back the 9 heavens. Top spiritual rank cultivation technique, exchange for spiritual value points, 5,000 spiritual value points. Roaring flame saber, high-grade spiritual rank artifact. Can increase fire damage by 2 times, has a continuous burning effect. Exchange for spiritual value points, 7,000 spiritual value points. Purple spirit sand, as heavy as 10,000 kilograms, can increase the effect of refining and increase the attack power of the artifact. Exchange for spiritual value points, 10,000 spiritual value points. It was densely packed with all sorts of martial arts, cultivation techniques, artifacts, and so on. Lin Xian took a deep breath. So this was the use of spiritual value points. It could be exchanged for all cultivation resources. He carefully looked at the light screen and found that there were many things on it, from low to high, all the way down. The things on the top were relatively low level. Lin Xian scrolled down and his pupils suddenly shrank. Earth rank martial art, Heavenly Moon Evil Shadow art, Earth rank cultivation technique. Exchange for spiritual value points, 5 million. 5 million. Lin Xian was stunned. From the previous comparison, he knew how terrifying 5 million spiritual value points was. Probably not many people could exchange for it. However, putting an earth rank martial art here was a naked temptation. Because everyone knew how precious and terrifying an earth rank martial art was, those who had strength would go all out to gather spiritual value points. At this moment, the surrounding warriors also noticed this situation and cried out in alarm. Although they did not have a single spiritual value point, this did not stop their enthusiasm and fantasies. I wonder how many spiritual value points a half-earth rank martial art is. Lin Xian suddenly remembered that the reward for the top 3 was a half-earth rank martial art. Then he quickly searched for it on the light screen. Found it. Demon Slayer art, half-earth rank martial art exchanged for spiritual value points. 300,000. Although it was not as good as an earth rank martial art, it was still a terrifying number. Seeing everyone's excited expressions, the four elders smiled. This was the effect they wanted. All right, I don't think I need to explain the use of spiritual value points. All of you should know, right? The red-robed elder laughed. Elder, how do we obtain spiritual value points? Everyone asked anxiously. There are many ways to obtain spiritual value points. For example, doing academy missions, killing demonic beasts, getting on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard, and so on. The Academy Handbook will be given to you when the time comes. It's very detailed. Now, I will give you the corresponding spiritual value points according to your rankings in the assessment. The assessment rankings also have spiritual value points. Everyone was excited. Of course, it's not just the ranking in the assessment. In the future, there will be rankings in every competition. Furthermore, the higher the ranking, the higher the spiritual value points. There are even special rewards for the top 3. For example, this time, the top 3 in the assessment will receive a half-earth tier martial art for free. Half-earth tier martial art. Everyone's eyes turned red as their breathing quickened. They had just learned from the screen that a half-earth rank martial art was worth 300,000 spiritual value points. If he were to do quests, he had no idea when he would be able to complete them. Damn it, I have to work hard to cultivate. No, I have to work hard to get a good ranking in the freshman assembly. Everyone was excited. The red-robed elder looked at everyone's excited faces and waved his sleeve, distributing the spiritual value points. Immediately, everyone looked at it excitedly. Lin Xian also lowered his head and saw that the number behind his spirit tablet had begun to change. In the end, it became 3,000. 3,000 spiritual value points. This was the reward for the first place in the assessment. Damn, I can't buy anything, Lin Xian muttered. The cheapest item on the list was 5,000 spiritual value points. His 3,000 spiritual value points were not enough. The first place was 3,000, and the others' spiritual value points decreased in succession. Many people were wailing. If you want good things, then work hard to cultivate, the red-robed elder said. Here, as long as you have enough spiritual value points, you can exchange for anything you want. Now, the top 3 would receive a half-earth tier martial art. The red-robed elder waved his hand, and an even bigger and brighter light appeared above the hall. The information on it was similar to the Jade token, but there were more and more comprehensive. There were a total of 4 teams, which meant that 12 people were able to obtain a half-earth tier martial art. This Senma College was really generous. However, Lin Xian felt relieved. It was just learning. Senma College would not lose anything. Moreover, it could increase his sense of belonging to the college. Lin Xian saw even more high-level cultivation techniques on the light screen in the sky, as well as some rare treasures. If these things were placed in the outside world, each of them would cause a huge commotion. It was enough to make everyone go crazy. This was also why the other forces in the Blood Realm had tried to invade Senma College many times. Fortunately, Senma College was strong enough to intimidate strong enemies. Moreover, Senma College had experienced thousands of years. Countless experts had walked out from here. After they left, they would all be overlords. Although there was nothing much on normal days, if Senma College was in trouble, these people would definitely come back to help. Therefore, Senma College was not only strong, but also had a group of powerful helpers. This was the reason why they stood tall in the Blood Realm and prospered for so long. Suddenly, the Crimson Dragon in the demonic beast pouch became excited. Kid, dragon blood, dragon blood. Hearing the Crimson Dragon's voice transmission, Lin Xian quickly looked over. He saw a few rows of words below the light screen. 8-clawed tyrant dragon blood essence, the blood essence of a divine beast on the heavenly ranking. It has the ability to seize the fortune of heaven and earth. It contains powerful energy. When used by martial artists, it can change one's physique. The lowest level is the king level. If there is enough blood essence, there is a chance of forming a half-dragon body. Hiss! Lin Xian took a deep breath after reading. As expected of a divine beast's blood essence, it's so powerful. A half-dragon body. Lin Xian guessed that it would not lose to a king-level body. Kid, get it. You must get it. The crimson dragon shouted. With it, I will be able to recover my dragon essence in advance. It was too excited. This 8-clawed tyrant dragon was from the same dragon race as it. The blood essence would be extremely useful to it. Lin Xian exclaimed in surprise. Then he looked at the price, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Spiritual value points, 8 million. Kid, if you can exchange for it, I will do anything. The crimson dragon was anxious. Anything? Lin Xian became spirited. This Rizalong was very cunning. Normally, it would do things carelessly and not use its full strength. Now, it was definitely a good thing for it to use its full strength. It seemed that this time, the Rizalong was really anxious. Don't worry. I will definitely get it for you, Lin Xian said. However, 8 million spiritual value points is a sky-high price. I estimate that it will take a long time. All right, during this period of time, I will do my best to help you. After the two finished their discussion, the voice of the red-robed old man sounded again. You little guys, hurry up and choose a half-earth rank martial art. Hearing this, Lin Xian put down the matter of the 8-clawed tyrant dragon's blood essence and began to choose a martial art. Chapter 718. Lin Xian began to choose a martial arts cultivation technique. He had an earth rank martial arts, so he did not need to use it for the time being. He also had the red lotus armor for defense, so he focused on attacking. 4 seasons sword technique, this is it. Soon, Lin Xian chose his target. 4 seasons sword technique was a half-earth rank martial arts. It had 4 different attacking styles: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. It was strange and varied, and its attacks were powerful. After Lin Xian, the others quickly made their choices as well. Murong Qingqing chose the falling flower sword palm. Dongfang Fenghuang chose the 10,000 flame seal, and Lin Xian did not look at the others carefully. After choosing, the red-robed elder gave each of them a jade slip with a half-earth rank martial arts copied inside. Then he gave them a scroll of academy rules, which recorded in detail how to obtain spiritual value points. Next was to arrange the accommodation. The red-robed elder and the other 4 elders led Lin Xian and the others out of the true spirit hall and to the square outside the hall. Then, several figures flew over from the horizon. Whoosh! 6 figures landed. There were men and women, and they all looked middle-aged. As for their specific age, it was unknown. The 6 of them landed on the square and began to distribute the disciples. More than 400 disciples were evenly distributed to the 6 middle-aged mentors. Among them, Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing were placed together. This made countless male students jealous. The mentor in charge of Lin Xian and the others was a middle-aged man with a square face. He said in a deep voice, "Follow me." Immediately, dozens of figures stood up and followed behind the square-faced, middle-aged man, flying into the depths of the academy. After passing through the halls, Lin Xian and the others stopped at a place with beautiful scenery. This is your accommodation area. My name is Guozhang. You can call me Mentor Gua. The middle-aged man said. Lin Xian looked around. The surroundings were lush, and there were mountains and rivers in the distance. In front of him was a courtyard. It was quiet and comfortable, very suitable for living. Moreover, Lin Xian's eyes widened. He realized that the spiritual energy here was very rich, much stronger than outside. That's right, there's a spirit gathering array here. Seeing that Lin Xian had discovered something, the middle-aged instructor smiled and said, "Of course, this is only the most ordinary spirit gathering array. If you want a higher-level spirit gathering array, you will need your spiritual value points." "There's something even better?" Lin Xian was surprised. "This is already much better than the outside world." "What's even better?" Thinking of this, his heart burned with passion. The others were equally excited. Cultivating in a place like this would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. However, Instructor Gua's next sentence extinguished everyone's enthusiasm. "There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. You have to pay to live in a house. Starting from here, the deeper you go, the denser the spiritual chi is. Of course, the more expensive it is. 500 spiritual value points for a month outside, 1,000 spiritual value points for a month in the middle, and 2,000 spiritual value points for a month inside. So expensive." Everyone cried out in alarm. Many people's faces darkened because they had just arrived at the academy. The spiritual value points in their hands were the rewards for ranking in the examination. Those students who were ranked at the bottom did not even have 500 spiritual value points in their hands. They probably could not even afford to live in the outermost courtyard. Seeing the embarrassed looks of the newcomers, Instructor Gua smiled. "Since you guys have just arrived, you can owe the first month's rent first. You can pay it all together next month. All right, you can choose now." Everyone's expressions were solemn as if they were facing a great enemy. The courtyard inside was good, but 2,000 spiritual value points per month was really a sky-high price. Although they could pay it late, it did not mean that they could not pay it at all. Everyone thought about it and decided to live in the outermost courtyard first. They would consider the house inside after they had stabilized. "Where do you live?" Morong Qingcheng asked. "Inside," Lin Xian replied. He had 3,000 spiritual value points in his hands. It was enough for the first month. Moreover, he believed that with his strength, he should be able to earn enough spiritual value points. Moreover, the spiritual chi here was indeed not bad. It could speed up his cultivation. Only when his cultivation reached the venerable realm would Lin Xian feel confident. After all, there were too many monsters in Senmu College. "I'll go too." Seeing that Lin Xian had chosen the inside, Morong Qingcheng followed. "Sigh, I'm so envious to have a beauty accompanying me." Many people were jealous, but they knew that Lin Xian was truly powerful. They could not be envious. If they wanted to achieve what they wanted, they could only work hard to cultivate and increase their strength. Xiao Li chose the courtyard in the middle. Shan Yaotian stared at the backs of Lin Xian and Morong Qingcheng, his eyes burning with anger. However, when he saw the spiritual value points in his hand, his face immediately darkened. In the end, he could only choose the courtyard in the middle. Walking on the small path paved with gravel, Lin Xian felt that the spiritual chi was getting denser and denser. He was in a good mood. The 2,000 spiritual value points were worth it. How great would it be if I could master this kind of spirit gathering array? Lin Xian was envious. When the time comes, I'll establish the Dragon Sword Pavilion and get 100 spirit gathering arrays. Bah! The Crimson Dragon looked down on him and said, "What do you think this is? Cabbage? This kind of exquisite spirit gathering array is not something that an ordinary person can set up. Don't I have you?" Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. "Aren't you known as a formation master? This spirit gathering array shouldn't be difficult for you, right? If I was at my peak, it would be a piece of cake. But now it's really difficult." The Crimson Dragon drooped his head. "It's fine, there's no rush. You should first understand the spirit gathering array here. I'll think of a way to increase your strength." Lin Xian frowned. "What are you thinking about?" Seeing that Lin Xian did not speak, but his expression kept changing, Morong Qingqing asked in confusion. Ah, no. I'm just amazed by this powerful and magical spirit gathering array. You mean this? As far as I know, this is only an ordinary spirit gathering array. There are intermediate and advanced spirit gathering arrays above this. Only those are considered good. There's more. Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. This was really an eye-opening experience. All right, don't be so serious. If you join the Morong family, all of this will be nothing to you. Morong Qingqing tempted. Will you consider it? This chick is at it again. Lin Xian was helpless. Am I that good? Morong Qingqing tilted her head and looked at him. Although you're not the strongest, you're the most special martial artist I've ever seen. I have a feeling that your future achievements will be limitless, so I have to make the most of it now. Are you sure? Lin Xian was surprised. Don't underestimate a woman's sixth sense. Morong Qingqing was very confident. And all the things you've done have shown that you're indeed very special. How about this? Why don't we make a bet? Lin Xian saw that he could not escape, so he came up with an idea. What? Let's bet on who'll be the first on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. Lin Xian's eyes shone brightly. If it's you, then I'll join you unconditionally. If I'm the first one, then don't ever mention this again. If anyone else was present, they would definitely go crazy. Lin Xian was a new student who had not even reached the martial venerable realm, but he was actually thinking about the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. Moreover, he was betting on first place. This was a madman. It was evening. The setting sun shone through the layers of leaves, forming spots of light that scattered on Lin Xian's face. It was as if he was covered in a layer of radiance. Lin Xian walked in the forest with a young and confident smile on his face. He was like a king as he spoke those words that would make anyone go crazy. Chapter 719. The contents of the bet surprised Morong Qingqing. She did not expect Lin Xian to be so ambitious. Number 1 on the Xian sovereign list. All right, I'll bet with you. Morong Qingqing smiled and said, You're very confident, but this time I'll definitely win. Not necessarily. Lin Xian's lips curled up slightly. Then, the two of them separated and entered their respective courtyards. Although it was said that they were going to their respective courtyards, in reality, the two of them were next to each other. This made Lin Xian feel helpless and could only accept it in the end. After entering the courtyard, Lin Xian casually set up a defensive formation. Although this was an academy, his years of battle experience reminded him that it was better to be careful. At least he would be able to obtain more time. Lin Xian was not in a hurry to cultivate. Instead, he took out the scroll of the academy's rules. According to the red-robed elder, it recorded the method to obtain spiritual value points. In this place, where even living in a house required spiritual value points, one had to master the method to earn spiritual value points. Otherwise, one would probably live a miserable life. Following that, Lin Xian had a general understanding. There were many ways to obtain spiritual value points. Among them, there were two most common methods. One was to complete the missions issued by the academy and cultivate. If one's cultivation increased, one would automatically obtain spiritual value points. Other than that, there were many other methods. Lin Xian took a look. There were all kinds of methods. One of them was to donate cultivation techniques and treasures. In other words, students would hand over cultivation techniques to the academy, and the academy would give out the corresponding spiritual value points according to the cultivation techniques level. This method was feasible, but no one would donate their core cultivation technique. However, the cultivation techniques obtained outside could be handed over. Hand over cultivation techniques? Lin Xian rubbed his chin. He had quite a few in his hands, including a few half-earth rank martial arts that he had obtained from killing the divine bird palace's venerable. Should I hand them over? Lin Xian frowned. Senmu College was famous in the Tianmu continent. There should be people from the divine bird palace in the academy. If he was discovered, it would not be good. Moreover, he did not know the relationship between Senmu College and the major powers, so it was better to be careful. Forget it. Let's look at other methods. Lin Xian shook his head. He was not worried about finding a way to solve this problem, because 3 months later, there would be a large-scale auction in Wind-Seeking City. In that kind of place, no one cared about the origin of the cultivation method. I'll cultivate first, then I'll go and accept missions. Lin Xian made his decision. Then he put away the academy's rules and took out the 4 seasons sword technique. This was a set of half-earth tier martial arts. It was divided into 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each season had a different style. According to what was mentioned above, if he was able to combine 4 different types of concepts, he would be able to display the might of the 4 seasons sword technique to the maximum. At that time, when the 4 types of concepts were combined, the might of the 4 seasons sword technique would not be inferior to a true earth rank martial technique. 4 concepts. This required a very high level of comprehension. It could be said that the 4 seasons sword technique was extremely difficult. The reason why Lin Xian had chosen this sword technique was because of this unique characteristic. He had grasped many kinds of concepts, so it was likely that he would be able to grasp the 4 seasons sword technique. The spring sword was a continuous and meticulous sword technique, endlessly growing and multiplying, bringing with it powerful vitality. The sword of summer was scorching hot and exuberant, carrying with it a powerful force. The sword of autumn was cold and austere, carrying with it a sense of nirvana. The sword of winter was cold and bone-piercing, carrying with it a sense of destruction amidst the violence. These 4 sword techniques each contain their own sword techniques and sword moves. It could be said that the 4 seasons sword technique was extremely vast. Lin Xian currently grasped the 3 natural concepts of wind, thunder, and fire. His strongest was sword intent, which had already formed a sword soul. It could be said that it was the foundation of the sword technique. Other than that, there was also the sword of nirvana and the sword of slaughter. These 2 killing moves could evolve the concept of nirvana and slaughter, which was perfect for the sword of autumn and sword of winter. As for the sword of spring, it was similar to his longevity secret, endlessly growing and multiplying. Other than that, for example, the concept of wind could be used in any sword technique. For example, the spring wind, the summer wind, the cold wind, and the winter wind. If used properly, it could be said to have endless, wonderful uses. It seemed that he really needed to study it carefully. Lin Xian's eyes shone brightly. He decided to start with the concept of wind. He was completely engrossed in the 4 seasons sword technique and completely forgot about the time. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. On this day, the defensive formation in the courtyard fluctuated, waking Lin Xian up. "Kid, it's your lover looking for you." The Crimson Dragon had a wretched look on his face. Lin Xian rolled his eyes, put away the 4 seasons sword technique, and walked outside. Sure enough, Morong Qingqing was standing outside the courtyard. "You finally came out." "I've never seen anyone cultivate like this," Morong Qingqing complained. "You're crazy." Lin Xian scratched his head. The 4 seasons sword technique was too powerful, and it made him a little obsessed. "Why are you looking for me?" "A mission is coming." "I came to inform you," Morong Qingqing said. After hearing this, Lin Xian slapped his head. He had almost forgotten about it. Senma College had 2 types of missions. One was compulsory, which meant that it was necessary to do them. This kind of mission was usually not too difficult, and it was only given once a month. The other was an autonomous mission, which was a mission given out by Semu College. The students could choose for themselves. The difficulty of this kind of mission was different, and, of course, the spiritual value was different. And today was the day the mission was given out. Let's go to the mission hall. The two of them walked side by side towards the mission hall. At this moment, many students had already gathered in front of the mission hall. Most of them were freshmen. Because the older students had already grasped the mission method, they usually did not appear with the freshmen. The appearance of Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing caused quite a stir. My goddess is finally here. Many people's eyes lit up. That kid. F***CK. Since when did they get together? Many people saw Lin Xian beside Murong Qingqing and immediately revealed murderous gazes. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. I guess I'm going to become the public enemy of the boys soon. Humph, you should be content. Others can't even get this treatment, even if they want it. Murong Qingqing was in a good mood. Shan Yaotian looked at the scene, and his face was terrifyingly dark. However, he did not have enough strength at the moment, so he could only endure it. However, some of the others could not endure it, especially Yan Qingyang, whose gaze could kill. Lin Xian and Murong Qingqing came to the crowd. First, they received the Academy's compulsory mission. Then, they looked at the crystal stone tablet in front of them. The stone tablet was 100 feet tall, and it was emitting light. It was filled with missions. Which one are you doing? Murong Qingqing asked. My basic mission is to gather 5 blood flame rats' inner cores, so I will take the mission near the forest. Lin Xian thought. The blood flame rat was a rank 9 monster. It usually lived in the shadows of the forest, so Lin Xian was looking for missions near the forest. At this moment, Yan Qingyang walked over. He looked at Murong Qingqing, and his eyes flickered with confidence. Coupled with his handsome face, he could indeed charm a lot of people. The freshmen are very careful when choosing their first mission. Why don't I help you? Yan Qingyang revealed a smile that he thought was charming. Chapter 720. Yan Qingyang came to Murong Qingqing's side casually, attracting the screams of countless female disciples. However, Murong Qingqing didn't have a good impression of him. She politely shook her head and rejected him. Looks like you don't know who I am. I'm Yan Qingyang, a student from the previous batch. At the same time, I'm also the vice president of Dao Ling Association. Yan Qingqing was confident. He believed that as long as he mentioned Dao Ling Association, Murong Qingqing would be surprised. However, he was wrong. Murong Qingqing didn't react, even though she knew the strength of Dao Ling Association. Yan Qingyang's face darkened when he saw that Murong Qingqing didn't move. He couldn't vent his anger on Murong Qingqing, so he stared at Lin Xian. Kid, get lost if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Yan Qingyang transmitted his voice. Lin Xian was pissed off. You can't get a girl, so you blame others? Moreover, Yan Qingyang's arrogant attitude disgusted him. Therefore, Lin Xian ignored Yan Qingyang's warning and asked, Are you done? If so, let's go. The flies here are too noisy. Everyone was stunned and turned to look. They saw what happened just now, but no one dared to say anything. After all, Yan Qingyang was a powerful senior. Moreover, he had Dao Ling Association behind him. They couldn't afford to offend such a person. However, Lin Xian, a new student, actually called him a fly. He was courting death. Kid, what did you say? Yan Qingyang was furious. I said there are flies here. Why are you so anxious? Lin Xian sneered. Are you a fly? That's ridiculous. Yan Qingyang's eyes darkened when he heard that. He stared at Lin Xian. A cold and terrifying aura filled the air and shrouded the surroundings. At the same time, a few powerful martial artists walked over. Their aura had reached the honorable realm. Lin Xian squinted his eyes. The great dragon, sword soul in his body, was ready to attack. He wasn't looking for trouble, but the other party was too annoying. They actually treated him like a soft persimmon. If he didn't fight back, these guys might do something outrageous. Moreover, he had already sensed the hostility and murderous aura from the other party. They were enemies sooner or later. Lin Xian wouldn't be bullied. "I'm done. Let's go," Morong Qingqing said. She saw the other party, Morong Qingqing and Morong Qingqing's group. Lin Xian glanced at Yan Qingyang and the rest before shrugging his shoulders. "All right, I don't like being surrounded by flies either." Then he turned Ants Groupses and Morong Qingqing. "This kid, he is courting death. A few our space. That's right, let him know the power of our Dao Ling association." The others agreed. "And Morong Qingqing Miran likes. He is. Don't worry, Brother Yang. You know my strength. I passed the 5th level of the training tower half a year ago." The young man laughed. "I will let him know that as a new student he has to behave himself with his tail between his legs." His body swayed, and like a wisp of green smoke, he disappeared from the spot. Dao Ling Association? With them taking action, Miran is going to be in trouble. Xin Yaotian sneered in his heart. Lin Xian and Morong Qingqing left the mission hall and headed out of the college. "I'm leaving. With your strength, you shouldn't be in any danger." Lin Xian waved his hand. "Be careful. I'm worried that those people will find trouble with you," Morong Qingqing said seriously. "Are you talking about those flies?" "Don't underestimate them. They are from the Dao Ling Association." "What's the Dao Ling Association?" Lin Xian asked. "There are many disciples in the college. Naturally, many societies have been formed. The Dao Ling Association is one of the stronger ones. Also, don't underestimate Yan Qingyang. He is on the Mystic Sovereign Leaderboard." Dao Ling Association, Mystic Sovereign Leaderboard. I got it. Lin Xian was on his guard. "I'm guessing that Yan Qingyang won't make a move easily. After all, his status is different. However, I can't be sure about the others," Morong Qingqing said. "I got it. Don't worry, I'll be fine." Lin Xian waved his hand, turned around, and flew out of Senmu College. Morong Qingqing's mission was different from his, so the two of them had to carry it out separately. This time, Lin Xian took a different path. After leaving Senmu College, he arrived at a vast forest. The mountain range stretched for tens of thousands of miles, and he couldn't see the end of it. Lin Xian used his movement technique and entered the vast forest. His shadow flickered, and a map appeared in his hand. The college's missions had information prompts, so as long as one's strength was not weak, they could usually complete them. Lin Xian looked at the mission information. The forest he was in belonged to the Onyx God mountain range. It was a primitive forest. The target of his mission, the Blood Flame Rat, was a level 9 monster beast, which was equivalent to a human martial artist at the limit of the spiritual detecting realm. However, as a monster beast, they had an innate advantage, so their strength was slightly stronger. They were equivalent to a half-step martial venerable. This kind of monster beast was bloodthirsty, dark, and liked to live in groups, so it was troublesome to deal with them. Let's take a look first. Lin Xian put away the mission information and increased his speed. He stood on top of a tree and kept jumping. Every jump was 100 feet. At the same time, he used his soul power to search. At the same time, far behind him, there was a wave of black smoke cautiously following him. It was soundless, and there was no way to detect it. After an hour, Lin Xian's face lit up, and his body sank like a huge mountain. He finally found the Blood Flame Rat. Whoosh! Like a feather, Lin Xian landed lightly. There was a group of about 50 Blood Flame Rats in front of him. Lin Xian used his soul power to collect information. There are others. Lin Xian was surprised. He found that there were other martial artists in other directions. However, they didn't look like they were from Senmu College. They should be from other forces. Lin Xian didn't move. He just observed silently. In the distance, 3 figures were pacing back and forth. 2 of them were middle-aged martial artists. One was a martial venerable, and the other was a half-step martial venerable. There was also a young man with a nervous expression. "Uncle Wang, is it really okay?" The young man asked uneasily. "Don't worry, young master. As long as we lure out one blood flame, rat at a time, there won't be any danger." "Yes, we must get the heart of the blood flame, rat this time." The young man clenched his fists. The middle-aged man in black smiled. At the same time, he quickly lit up a snake-shaped incense stick. A strange fragrance drifted with the wind. However, the middle-aged man quickly extinguished the snake-shaped incense stick and waited carefully. Soon there was a commotion in the distance. Then the whole ground shook. Along with it, there was a red blood mist and a thick, murderous aura. "Be careful! The blood flame rats are here!" the middle-aged man in black shouted. Lin Xian was also surprised when he saw the scene. However, when he sensed carefully, he frowned. Chapter 7:21. In the distance, a figure the size of a small mountain appeared in the forest. It was a blood flame rat with scales all over its body. It was as big as a mountain and was surrounded by a bloody aura. It was extremely terrifying. When it saw the black-clothed middle-aged man and the other 2, it did not rush over. Instead, it opened its bloody mouth and spat out a green ball of light. "Oh no!" The black-clothed middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. This situation was beyond his expectations. He originally thought that the blood flame rat would rush over, but he did not expect this situation. In a moment of desperation, he could only attack. Whoosh! A purple saber light cut through the void like a purple wave and slashed towards the blood flame rat. Puff! The purple saber light was resplendent and slashed the green ball of light in the air, instantly shattering it. However, the green ball of light contained a large amount of green liquid that was highly toxic and corrosive. In an instant, it wrapped around the purple saber light and made sizzling sounds. More green liquid fell to the ground, corroding the trees and soil, creating large depressions. The black-clothed middle-aged man was a supremacy after all. He roared angrily, and the saber light was as bright as snow. It was like a ferocious purple python. Bang! The saber slashed at the blood flame rat and tore apart its scaly body. Roar! The blood flame rat let out a sharp cry in pain. The sound wave was like a tsunami that spread in all directions. "Oh no!" The black-clothed middle-aged man's eyelids twitched. This roar definitely alarmed the entire blood flame rat group. "Damn it, run!" At this moment, he no longer cared about hunting and turned around to fly back. However, the ground around him trembled and countless mountain-like figures appeared, surrounding this place. At the same time, the ground under the young man's feet cracked and a shocking murderous aura soared into the sky. No. The black-clothed, middle-aged man roared crazily. He wanted to help, but he was one step too late. At this moment, an azure arrow pierced through the air like a bolt of lightning and shot towards the blood flame rat on the ground. Puff! Roar! Blood splattered everywhere, accompanied by a miserable roar. The ground cracked open, and a huge body was pierced through by the green arrow. The terrifying power brought the blood flame rat hundreds of meters away. What a terrifying archery technique! The young man and the others were stunned. The black-clothed, middle-aged man's heart trembled. As a supremacy, he could understand how terrifying that arrow was. Roar! Seeing their companions killed, countless blood flame rats were enraged. Their murderous aura soared into the sky, dyeing the entire forest red. They all stared behind them. Even the black-clothed hillman was staring intently. Behind him, the void rippled, and a handsome young man in a blue robe stepped through the air. He held a golden bow in his hand. "Thank you for your help, young hero." The three of them were shocked to see how young the newcomer was. Nothing much, just carrying out a mission. This young man was naturally Lin Xian. Through his soul power, he had long since discovered the blood flame rat underground. At the critical moment, he had launched an attack and saved the young man's life. Mission. The middle-aged man in black asked carefully, "Are you a student of Senmu College?" "Yes." Lin Xian nodded. He then pulled back the string of his thunder bow once more. Streaks of green arrows flew out at an incredible speed, leaving no time for anyone to react. Puff! Puff! In an instant, the three blood flame rats were pierced through, and their huge bodies were nailed to the ground. Hiss! The middle-aged man in black sucked in a breath of cold air. What terrifying strength! The young man's eyes were filled with envy. He clenched his fists excitedly. The surrounding blood flame rats were enraged. They all rushed toward Lin Xian with bloodshot eyes. Looking at the situation, he wanted nothing more than to tear him in half. "Not good, young hero, be careful," the middle-aged man in black warned. The attack of so many blood flame rats was no joke. No matter how strong he was, he would not be able to defend himself, unless he was a second stage venerable. Looking at the blood flame rats coming from all directions, Lin Xian stood calmly. Then a shocking roar came from his body and shot into the sky. The roar was very deep, like the roar of a dragon. Buzz! As soon as the roar came out, the blood flame rats trembled. Their eyes were filled with fear, and many of them were trembling. It was fear that came from their souls. In the next moment, those overbearing demonic beasts with monstrous, baleful auras all fled. They transformed into numerous rays of bloody light that charged out of the forest and mountains, and they fled without a trace. Buzz! Lin Xian took the opportunity to kill 2 more blood flame rats. Humph, it's just a group of demonic beasts. How dare they behave so atrociously in front of Ben Huang? If Ben Huang doesn't show his power, do you really think I'm a sick snake? The crimson dragon snorted. It turned out that the dragon roared just now was from it. As a member of the Divine Dragon clan, he naturally had the ability to suppress demonic beasts, especially those blood flame rats. Below, the middle-aged man in black and the other 2 were completely stunned. This method was simply a miracle. "I only want the demonic crystals of the blood flame rats," Lin Xian said to the 3 people below. "Ah, okay. Hero, please wait a moment." The 3 people came back to their senses and began to deal with the corpses of the blood flame rats. Soon, 5 fist-sized demonic crystals appeared in front of Lin Xian. "It's very dangerous here. Be careful." Lin Xian put away the demonic crystals and reminded them. Then he turned into a ray of sword light and disappeared. "Hero, may I know your name?" the martial artist in black shouted. "Lin Xian." "Hero Lin, our Wang clan will forever remember your kindness." "Uncle Wang, that's great. We have the hearts of the blood flame rats." The young man was also happy. "The martial artists of Senmu College are so strong. How great would it be if I could get in?" "Hero, I'm afraid you're on the Mystic Honorable Leaderboard. Ordinary disciples of the college are not as strong as him." The middle-aged man in black muttered, "Let's go quickly. Our clan is waiting for us." Then the 3 of them quickly left. After they left, a wisp of green smoke appeared and gradually turned into a human figure. Bow and arrow with the power of wind and thunder. Interesting. The human figure sneered and then floated into the distance. That direction was the direction Lin Xian had left in. Lin Xian left the nest of the blood flame rats and began his next mission. It was also a killing mission. However, this time the target was not a demonic beast, but a demon general. Above the demonic beasts were demon generals. 1 to 9 stars corresponded to the 9 honorable realm. Lin Xian's target this time was a 1-star demon general, the golden-eyed demonic bat. To be exact, it was the golden-eyed demonic bat's wings. West. Lin Xian followed the instructions on the mission information and moved. Gradually, some mountains appeared in front of him. They were sparse when he first arrived, but they soon joined together. Furthermore, plumes of black smoke were rising from the mountains. Lin Xian knew that it was formed by demonic qi. Whoosh! As he approached the mountains, he did not fly in the air. Instead, he chose to walk. As he got closer, Lin Xian realized that there were many caves under the mountains. They were dark and eerie. Crack! The withered branches on the ground made a sound as if it was a demonic sound, alerting the existence inside. Suddenly, waves of energy came from the caves. The surrounding air trembled violently as if something was about to come out. Countless black figures flew out from the caves in front of him. They were like a black flood rushing toward Lin Xian. Chapter 722. The air vibrated as countless black shadows pounced towards Lin Xian. Bats, countless bats, like a black flood, covered the sky and covered the earth. Pairs of bloodthirsty eyes flickered, incomparably demonic. Roar! Another deep dragon roar, forming a visible sound wave that swept out in all directions. Immediately, the bats that were pouncing over trembled and fell to the ground. Soon, the bats that rushed out of the cave all landed on the ground. At this moment, an even more terrifying sound came from the depths of the cave, shaking the surrounding rocks and cracking them. Obviously, the dragon roar just now had stimulated the Bat King inside. Whoosh! A gray shadow floated by, and a sharp sound broke through the air. A pair of sharp claws grabbed towards Lin Xian from above. So fast! Lin Xian used the illusory demonic steps, and his body turned into countless phantoms, dodging quickly. Then he looked ahead vigilantly. There was a 2-foot-tall monster with a human body and a bat head. Its 4 limbs had sharp claws, and a pair of gray wings that were 3 feet long with golden lines on its back. Its eyes were golden, and at this moment they were emitting a fierce light. Golden-eyed demonic bat, right? Lin Xian carefully compared and found that the monster in front of him was the one he was looking for. As if it felt Lin Xian's burning gaze, the golden-eyed demonic bat roared, and the sound wave was like a sharp blade cutting through the void. Buzz, buzz, buzz! The air trembled as if it was boiling. Countless cracks about 10 feet long appeared on the surrounding rocks and ground, and the incisions were flat. It was very terrifying. Sound wave technique. The golden-eyed demonic bat's signature attack. The sky fell and the earth cracked. The terrifying roar caused the mountains to tremble and countless peaks to split open. The terrifying sound wave rushed towards Lin Xian. Mad lion roar! Lin Xian opened his mouth and roared out a sound wave technique. As if an ancient demonic lion was born, the terrifying sound caused the air to tremble as if a tsunami had occurred. Puff, puff, puff! Boulders collapsed into pieces, and trees turned into powder. The ground seemed to be torn apart by a pair of invisible hands, and a terrifying crack appeared and spread into the distance. The 2 sound waves collided, producing a demonic sound. Countless translucent wave blades surged and rushed into the sky. Terrifying energy surged out, causing the area within a radius of 1,000 meters to be greatly impacted. Seeing that his sonic attack was blocked, the golden-eyed demonic bat became extremely anxious. His gray wings flapped, and he turned into a gray light, quickly rushing towards Lin Xian. He waved his claws, tearing the void apart. The murderous aura soared into the sky, forming a demonic cloud that covered all directions. In the blink of an eye, the golden-eyed demonic bat arrived in front of Lin Xian, its sharp claws gleaming with a cold light as it swiped at Lin Xian. Clang! Lin Xian pulled out the wind shadow sword and slashed at the sharp claws. The sound of metal clashing rang out as countless sparks flashed, forming electric arcs that filled the sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz! The golden-eyed demonic bat launched an attack and engaged in a fierce battle with Lin Xian. The two of them were very fast, as if two balls of light were fighting fiercely. Sword of Spring, continuous spring rain. With a swing of the sword, countless strands of sword qi formed into threads that connected together like raindrops falling down. These days, Lin Xian had been studying the 4 seasons sword technique, and he had made some progress. Now was the time to use it. The sword qi was continuous and full of vitality. Each strike was stronger than the previous, as if it was endless. The golden-eyed demonic bat was furious. It spread its wings and flew away, but no matter where it fled, there was a sky full of sword qi wrapping around it. Clang, clang! Puff, puff, puff! In an instant, its body was hit hundreds of times. Fortunately, it was a demonic general, and its body's defense was strong. Otherwise, if it was an ordinary demonic beast, it would have been cut into countless pieces. But even so, it was still injured. There are countless sword wounds on its body, and streams of green blood flowed out, emitting a fishy smell. Roar! The golden-eyed demonic bat was furious. It had never been injured like this by a human. With a furious roar, it rushed over again with endless demonic qi. The human and demonic beast started fighting again. At this time, a wisp of green smoke silently arrived nearby and stopped at a hidden place. Lin Xian and the golden-eyed demonic bat did not notice it. The two of them fought again and again, and the terrifying energy destroyed everything around them. Spring sword, spring breeze! Gusts of wind formed on the sword blade, whistling out together with the sword blade. Countless sword qi surged, turning into a gust of wind that was all-pervasive. On the opposite side, the golden-eyed demonic bat felt the danger and screamed crazily. Demonic qi surged out of its body, forming the shadow of a ferocious bat king. It was about 30 meters long and emitted a terrifying aura. An intense collision occurred, and the two forces of energy entangled together. Silently, Lin Xian changed his sword technique. Autumn sword, solitary sword. This sword was very slow, as if it was stabbing out slowly, but wherever it passed, grass and trees would fall, and everything would wither. The ferocious Bat King's shadow suddenly became dim, as if it would shatter at any time. Feeling that its vitality was being taken away, the golden-eyed demonic bat became frightened and uneasy. Above its eyes, golden light bloomed, forming 2 spiral golden ripples. When the ripples appeared, it made one's soul tremble. Kid, this should be its bloodline demonic art. The crimson dragon transmitted its voice. Lin Xian was vigilant. This power was enough to threaten him. Winter sword, winter slaughter. Terrifying killing intent spread out, and then the power of the great dragon sword soul surged out. This sword was extremely powerful. A sword light slashed out, and the space was split open. It was vast and mighty, like a river of death, intimidating the surroundings. Boom! The sword qi surged and collided with the golden spiral, shattering it on the spot. Then it quickly slashed towards the golden-eyed demonic bat. At the same time, the green smoke in the dark corner floated and quickly floated towards Lin Xian. Crack! The golden-eyed demonic bat resisted with all its might, but it was still split in half. Green blood spilled on the ground. However, in the next moment, Lin Xian's hair stood on end. He felt a fatal killing intent. Buzz! In an instant, the red lotus armor covered his whole body. Ding! A crisp sound came from behind him, accompanied by a terrifying force. Fortunately, the red lotus armor was extremely tough and blocked the fatal attack. However, the force sent Lin Xian flying. The massive force hit Lin Xian and sent him flying in the air like a meteor. Using the illusory demonic steps, Lin Xian's body moved horizontally in the air, dissipating the terrifying force. He blocked it? How is that possible? A surprised voice came. Lin Xian suppressed the blood and qi in his body. He turned around abruptly, and his eyes were like sword radiance, sweeping in all directions. It's you! Seeing the martial artist behind him, Lin Xian's face darkened. That person was not a human, but the young man beside Yan Qingyang. Defensive armor. Kid, I didn't expect you to have such a treasure. It can actually block my attack? Chu Tianhao was shocked. He looked at the red lotus armor on Lin Xian, and his eyes were filled with greed. Kid, it's a waste for such a treasure to be on you. Why don't you hand it over to me? Maybe I'll spare your life. Humph! Lin Xian snorted, and his expression turned cold. I've said it before. I hate flies. Since you're here to die, don't blame me. Chapter 7:23. I've said that I hate flies. Since you're so eager to die, don't blame me. Lin Xian said coldly. Brat, you're arrogant. Chu Tianhao snorted when he heard Lin Xian's words. Let me tell you, freshmen have their own rules. You can't just offend anyone, especially our Tao Spirit Association. You can't afford to offend us. Let me teach you how to behave. Chu Tianhao's body started to turn illusory and hazy. Like a wisp of white smoke, he dissipated in the air and quickly drifted towards Lin Xian. It was a strange scene. A living person had turned into smoke. Those who didn't know better would think that they had seen a ghost. Like a phantom, the white smoke quickly rushed out. Its speed was so fast that it was shocking. Sword of Spring, continuous spring rain. The wind shadow sword stabbed out. Lin Xian used the 4 seasons swordplay again. In an instant, the space in front of him was filled with fine sword radiance. It was continuous and formed a sword screen, like a continuous spring rain. The space in front of him was filled with sword radiance and sealed off everything. Haha, it's useless. My martial soul is smoke. It's formless and formless. You can't hurt me at all. The arrogant voice rang out. Then, the white smoke quickly passed through the dense sword radiance and drifted towards Lin Xian. The scene was strange. Among the sword radiance in the sky, a cloud of white smoke drifted leisurely without any obstruction. In the air, the smoke slowly condensed and quickly formed Chu Tianhao's figure. His fist was covered with thick white smoke. A terrifying fist force was thrown out quickly. I can turn into smoke at any time and condense into a form at any time. I'm formless and formless. Let's see how you can hurt me. White smoke ghost fist. Above the fist, the white smoke rolled and formed 2 ferocious ghost heads. They attached themselves to the fist and roared as they bit towards Lin Xian. The air exploded in an instant. A terrifying force rushed to the sky and left a white trail in the air. Rows of air waves rolled. It was a shocking scene. Sword of Summer, Dance of the Wind. Lin Xian held the wind shadow sword in his hand and swung it towards the sky. A strong gust of wind blew in the air and whistled as if a wind beast was roaring. A terrifying and vast power surged in all directions. Whoosh! The fierce wind and sword qi whistled, blowing on the white smoke ghost fist, causing it to sway nonstop, as if it would shatter at any moment. Petty tricks. Chu Tianhao laughed coldly as he punched out. Instantly, the white ghost head turned illusory, wanting to pass through the raging sword qi. Wisps of white Smoke surged in the air and strangely appeared in front of Lin Xian. They quickly condensed, and the ghost head suddenly bit down. Puff! Lin Xian's figure shattered. It was just an afterimage. His real body had already arrived at the side with a solemn look in his eyes. His opponent's martial soul was too strange. It was actually this kind of formless smoke, which was indeed beyond his expectations. Vermilion bird seal. With a low shout, he formed a seal with his left palm and quickly waved it forward. A vermilion bird soared into the sky, bringing with it towering flames. It pierced through the void like a real divine beast, pouncing towards Chu Tianhao. The entire sky was dyed red, and the blazing energy caused the void to tremble. Like a meteor, it streaked across the sky brilliantly. Its useless, formless form. The white ghost head floated and turned into wisps of white smoke, slipping away in all directions as if it had disappeared. Chu Tianhao's face was filled with disdain. Although he was only at the first sky of the honorable realm, his martial soul made him extremely strange. Few people in the same realm could defeat him. Boom! The flaming vermilion bird tore the sky apart and pierced through the ground, but it did not hurt Chu Tianhao. Whoosh! In an instant, Chu Tianhao had already arrived behind Lin Xian. He bent his arm, forming a long whip of white smoke and a spiderweb-like smoke net, quickly wrapping around Lin Xian. Lin Xian's red lotus armor shone, forming a solid defense. At the same time, he stabbed out with his sword. Puff! Chu Tianhao's chest was pierced, and a transparent sword hole appeared, but there was no blood. Ha 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 ha! When the sword radiance disappeared, the smoke floated and repaired the chest that was hit. Chu Tianhao was unharmed, but Lin Xian was shrouded in the white smoke net. Unharmed! Lin Xian frowned. It seemed that normal attacks had no effect. Don't waste your energy. With your strength, you can't hurt me. Chu Tianhao said disdainfully, Boy, watch how I deal with you. He was like a demon, slowly walking towards Lin Xian. Can't hurt you. Lin Xian laughed. You're too confident. Watch how I break your net. Break it? You think you can break my attack? Chu Tianhao laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. However, he soon couldn't laugh anymore. His face turned red, as if someone was strangling his neck. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Just a moment ago, a sword radiance flashed and cut the white smoke net that he had formed. Furthermore, what was even stranger was that the smoke did not merge back together like before. There was a sharp and terrifying aura at the opening that stopped everything. How is this possible? Chu Tianhao was shocked, and disbelief was written all over his face. Although he was a first-rank honorable, he had few opponents in the same rank as him because of his smoke martial soul. That kind of formless attack was impossible for his opponents to break. Even if it was broken, he could quickly merge it back together. However, this time, things were out of his control. The smoke that was cut apart by Lin Xian could not merge back together at all. Damn it, what did he do? What kind of power is that? Chu Tianhao's face turned ugly. If he was surprised, then in the next moment he was horrified. That was because he saw Lin Xian unleash the sword of withered silence, piercing into the sky and instantly dispersing the smoke above. The smoke dimmed and then disappeared in the air. This is impossible. Chu Tianhao panicked. He tried his best to sense and found that the smoke had really disappeared. Impossible, how can this be? He was terrified. He looked at Lin Xian and trembled slightly. Is that his martial soul? Chu Tianhao panicked. In fact, he guessed right. That was the power of Lin Xian's dragon sword soul. The great dragon sword spirit was an offensive saint technique between heaven and earth. It was invincible and could cut through the void, let alone the smoke. Therefore, when Lin Xian used the power of the dragon sword soul, The smoke was easily cut apart. Then he used the lonely sword to make the smoke disappear. It could be said that Lin Xian had become Chu Tianhao's nemesis. Lin Xian cut apart the white smoke around him with a sword. Then, holding the wind shadow sword, he walked over slowly. Didn't you want to teach me a lesson? What other tricks do you have? Use them all. You! Chu Tianhao was terrified. His martial soul was restrained, and he did not have the courage to fight at all. Kid, consider yourself lucky. I'll let you go this time. Don't let me see you again. After saying that, he turned around to leave. You want to leave? Don't you think it's too late? Lin Xian sneered. He used his body movement technique and created countless shadows. They filled the surroundings and blocked Chu Tianhao's way. Why don't I teach you how to behave? Chapter 724. Why don't I teach you how to behave? Lin Xian returned the same words to him. If it were anyone else, Chu Tianhao would have slapped them. How dare someone teach him how to behave? But now he did not dare to do anything. Lin Xian's martial soul was too powerful. It completely countered his martial soul. Now he was filled with regret. Why did he force himself to be brave and accept this mission? Why didn't he investigate Lin Xian's background before coming here? If he knew that Lin Xian was so strong, he might not have come. But it was too late now. You, what are you doing? Chu Tianhao was terrified. I'm warning you. I'm from Dao Ling Association. If you dare to touch me, you're dead. He had no choice but to use Dao Ling Association's name, hoping that it would scare him. But Lin Xian was not afraid at all. Instead, his smile deepened. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I know Senmu College's rules. Lin Xian smiled. I just want to teach you how to behave. Looking at that sinister smile, Chu Tianhao was about to cry. Indeed, Senmu College forbade students from killing each other, but there was a kind of pain worse than death. Chu Tianhao knew that Lin Xian would not let him go easily. Sure enough, Lin Xian waved his hand and released the crimson dragon and the little white monkey. Come, come, come. Ben Huang will teach you how to behave. The crimson dragon was excited. I'm the best at teaching people. Let me do it. The little white monkey was equally excited. It danced with joy. Snake demon! Chu Tianhao screamed. Damn it, how can you say that? Ben Huang really needs to teach you a lesson. The crimson dragon was unhappy. Little one, tie him up. Run. Chu Tianhao was going crazy. His body turned into white smoke and fled in all directions. This was his secret escape technique. As long as a wisp of white smoke escaped, he would be able to leave. However, he still underestimated the crimson dragon and the snow white monkey. Looking at the scattered white smoke, the crimson dragon sneered again and again. It waved its claws and quickly arranged a formation that covered a radius of 100 meters. Then, a strange force formed in the formation, causing Chu Tianhao to reveal himself. Then, a bolt of lightning flashed, shining with dazzling light, and rushed towards Chu Tianhao. That scene resembled the roar of a lightning dragon. Wang! In an instant, the lightning turned into a line of light and trapped Chu Tianhao. Wuji, Wuji, the little white monkey, was excited. It used the thunderclap whip in its hand to trap the other party. Puff! With a casual tug, Chu Tianhao was pulled down. Chu Tianhao was in a daze, unable to believe what he had just heard. This time, he didn't even use Lin Xian's hand. How could two demonic beasts finish him off? What happened to this world? He felt that he could not keep up with the pace of the world. Kid, Ben Huang's education has begun. Ah, ah, ah. Then a miserable cry sounded, like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves. It was so creepy that the surrounding demonic beasts fled. After a long time, the sound gradually disappeared. Demon, demon! Chu Tianhao's body curled up, like a little wife who had been violated. It was very miserable. Lin Xian took care of the golden-eyed demonic bat's corpse and came to Chu Tianhao's side. How is it? Problem, this kid will definitely be a good person in the future. The crimson dragon patted its chest and promised. Here, this is his immortal martial spirit tablet and storage ring. Lin Xian took it with satisfaction and then began to check the spirit tablet. 200 spiritual value points? So little? Lin Xian frowned. Hey, aren't you from the Tao Spirit Association? Why are you so poor? Hearing this, Chu Tianhao's mouth twitched. I've already used up all my spiritual value points. Who would still have any left? Forget it. Lin Xian was disappointed. Throw the spirit tablet over. You're lucky this time. Lucky? Chu Tianhao cried. Not only had he received a deep education, but his storage ring had also been robbed. How could this be called lucky? He realized that compared to Lin Xian, he was nothing. Lin Xian was the demon. I'll let you off this time. If you want to cause trouble again, remember to bring more spiritual value points. Lin Xian kept the other party's storage ring and left with the crimson dragon and the snow-white monkey. In the forest, only Chu Tianhao's miserable howls could be heard. Senmu College. A few youths were waiting in the pavilion near the entrance. These people were Yan Qingyang and other members of the Tao Spirit Association. Looking at the time, Chu Tianhao should be done. Why isn't he back yet? I guess that kid is thinking of some new tricks to torture people again. The youths were discussing. Yan Qingyang frowned slightly. For some reason, he had a bad feeling in his heart. Brother Yang, don't worry. He's just a freshman and a fake supremacy. What can such a person do? That's right, isn't it just? Another disciple said with a smile. However, he stopped halfway because he saw a person. That kid, how is that possible? The few of them were shocked. Why was he fine? Damn it! Did Chu Tianhao not do anything? Seeing that Lin Xian had returned safe and sound, Yan Qingyang's face turned gloomy. Humph! Tell Chu Tianhao to come back and see me. After saying that, he waved his sleeves and disappeared in a ray of light. Only the rest of the people were left looking at each other. After Lin Xian returned, he ran straight to the mission hall. The 2 missions this time were considered practice. He only wanted to understand the situation of the missions. After everything was clear, he would challenge the missions with high spiritual value points. Of the 2 missions, one was a basic mission of the academy, which only gave him a pitiful 100 spiritual value points. The other was a self-selected mission, which gave Lin Xian 1,500 spiritual value points. 1-star Demon General, 1,500 spiritual value points. It seemed that spiritual value points were not easy to earn. Lin Xian curled his lips, kept the spiritual value points, and returned to his courtyard. At the same time, in a small mansion in the senior students' residential area, Yan Qingyang and the rest were gathered. Among them was Chu Tianhao. At this moment, Chu Tianhao's face was pale, and he looked dispirited. It was obvious that he had not recovered from the previous education. Old Chu, what's wrong with you? Why did you let that kid return safely? Yeah, didn't you do anything? The surrounding warriors asked. Yan Qingyang's face darkened. What happened? You have to give me an explanation for this matter. Hearing the crowd's question, Chu Tianhao seemed to have thought of something, and his body trembled. He said weakly, I did, but I failed. Failed? How is that possible? The crowd did not believe him. Your smoke martial spirit is so powerful. How could he resist it? It's useless. His martial spirit is even more strange. It's my nemesis. Chu Tianhao shook his head. He did not want to elaborate. After all, this was related to his history of humiliation. Brother Yang, that kid is very strange. His martial spirit is very sharp. I'm not his opponent. After saying that, Chu Tianhao did not wait for the others to react and left alone. Strange? Sharp. The crowd was stunned. Looking at Chu Tianhao's appearance, it was obvious that he had suffered a great loss. Was the other party really that difficult to deal with? Yan Qingyang's frown deepened. He said in a deep voice, "Send someone to investigate that kid's background. We must find out." Chapter 7:25. Lin Xian returned to the courtyard and organized Chu Tianhao's storage rings. He kept the useful ones and exchanged the useless ones for spiritual value points. Then he began to cultivate again. This time, Lin Xian's focus was not only on the 4 seasons sword technique, but also on the improvement of his cultivation. Although he had the strength of a first-level supremacy, his cultivation was still at the limit of the spirit detecting realm. Under such circumstances, he would not be able to enter the mysterious sovereign leaderboard. The requirement to enter the mysterious sovereign leaderboard was that one had to reach the supremacy realm. Therefore, Lin Xian planned to raise his cultivation to the supremacy realm. However, after cultivating for a long time, he shook his head slightly. Although his cultivation speed was already very fast, he was still not satisfied. "I heard that there are other spirit gathering arrays in the academy. I wonder how effective those high-level spirit gathering arrays are?" The place he lived in only had the most ordinary spirit gathering array. Although the effect was not bad, it was not possible to break through to the supremacy realm in a short period of time. Therefore, he wanted to take a look at those so-called high-level spirit gathering arrays. The spirit gathering array was very famous in Senmu College, so he could find out its location by asking around. Lin Xian carefully asked around and found that with her current spiritual value points, she could only enter the intermediate spirit gathering array at most. After knowing the direction, Lin Xian walked towards the intermediate spirit gathering array. Soon, he arrived at the intermediate spirit gathering array area. The number of academies nearby began to increase, and the spiritual qi in the air was obviously denser. When he arrived, Lin Xian realized that it was different from what he had imagined. This spirit gathering array was different from the courtyard he lived in. It was a spirit gathering tower. However, the spirit gathering tower was not built on the ground, but underground. Deep pits that were like sinkholes appeared in front of him, filled with a mysterious aura. Lin Xian took a look. There were a total of 6 spirit gathering towers, forming a circle. Below the 6 spirit gathering towers was a super large intermediate spirit gathering array. From the conversations of the surrounding students, Lin Xian found out that the lower the spirit gathering tower was, the better the effect. It required more spiritual value points. The intermediate spirit gathering tower had a total of 9 floors. Each floor had 36 cultivation rooms, and the price of each floor was different. The first level required 500 spiritual value points to cultivate for 2 hours. The second level required 1,000 spiritual value points, and the third level required 1,500 spiritual value points. All the way to the 9th level, cultivating for 2 hours would require 5,000 spiritual value points. That price could be said to be terrifying. The first floor was the cheapest, so most people rented it, but the effect was the worst. Although it was said to be the worst, it was many times better than the spirit gathering array in the courtyard. When Lin Xian arrived at the first floor, he discovered that the spiritual qi on the first floor was at least twice that of his courtyard. As expected of an intermediate spirit gathering array, it was indeed powerful. If the first floor was already so powerful, he really didn't know what the 9th floor would be like. However, with his current wealth, he could not go to the 9th level. After calculating the spiritual value points in his hands, Lin Xian decided to go to the 2nd level. The passage was spiraling, and the walls on both sides were inlaid with luminous pearls, illuminating the spiritual tower. Lin Xian passed through the numerous academies and headed downwards. However, the path to the second level was blocked. A figure was sitting cross-legged there, blocking the passage. It was a young man dressed in black. He had short hair, an aquiline nose, and a cold gaze. At this moment, he was sitting there with an evil smile on his face. In addition, there were a few students in front of him. They were injured, and their faces were filled with anger. What's going on? Lin Xian frowned. Fighting in the spirit-gathering tower. Freshman? Someone beside him asked. I advise you not to go over, or else you'll end up like those people. Someone pointed at the injured students and said, Why? Lin Xian did not understand. The person beside him sighed and explained. Entering the cultivation room requires spiritual value points, and the price is not cheap. However, some people don't have that many spiritual value points on them, or they don't want to spend the spiritual value points on them, so they can only use others. Use others. Lin Xian frowned. You mean snatch? Snatch? You're right, but they don't dare to say that. The short-haired young man in black sneered. You're quite bold. To dare to say snatch in front of me. Do you want to use the second level? If you want to use it, then come over. If you don't dare, then scram and hide in the first level forever. The short-haired young man snorted coldly, his words extremely arrogant. Doesn't the Academy care about this kind of thing? Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. As long as no one dies, they usually don't care. That person sighed. The path of martial arts is filled with danger, and we're in the even more dangerous blood realm. If you can't even bear these things, then you'll only die outside. Hearing this, Lin Xian fell silent. Indeed, this was a world where the strong were respected. The Academy only provided resources and life insurance. Everything else needed to be fought for. Humph! After talking so much nonsense, do you dare or not? If you don't dare, then scram. Don't waste my feelings. The short-haired young man shouted coldly, his body emitting a powerful aura. Suddenly, many students around him changed their expressions and kept retreating. Freshmen, they're from the Greedy Wolf Gang. You'd better not provoke them, the person next to him kindly reminded him. Have they always been so arrogant? Lin Xian asked. The Greedy Wolf Gang is greedy, overbearing, and very cruel. You can say that they're a gangster organization, that person said. However, they have always been overbearing, but they have an exception. Exception? This time, Lin Xian didn't ask because he saw the exception that happened next. A figure entered from the entrance, passed through the crowd, and walked forward. The young man was in a white robe that was spotless. Although he didn't release any aura, he had a powerful aura, like a mountain that people looked up to. Seeing the young man in white, the short-haired young man sitting on the ground was stunned. Then, he quickly stood up and stepped aside to make way. Thud, thud, thud. The young man in white looked indifferent. He didn't even look at the short-haired young man and directly entered the next level. Throughout the entire process, the short-haired young man in black didn't say a word. He even looked a little nervous. Is this the exception? Lin Xian smiled. He finally knew what kind of people the Greedy Wolf Gang was. What Greedy Wolf Gang? It turns out that they're a bunch of trash that only bullies the weak. Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. The surrounding crowd was shocked and looked at Lin Xian in a daze. Although they knew that was the case, no one dared to say it out loud. One had to know that the Greedy Wolf Gang was very cruel and terrifying. Whoosh! In the next moment, the surrounding students moved and distanced themselves from Lin Xian. Even the martial artist who warned him shook his head and left Lin Xian's side. He didn't want to be misunderstood. Seeing the crowd's reaction, Lin Xian sighed. The Greedy Wolf Gang had done a lot of evil. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so afraid. Kid, you're the first one who dares to insult the Greedy Wolf Gang to their face. The short-haired young man in black looked ferocious. I'll let you know that some words can't be said carelessly. Chapter 726. Kid, kneel down and admit your mistake. I might let you go. Otherwise, you're dead for sure if you offend the greedy wolf gang. The short-haired young man in black said with killing intent. Hearing this voice, the injured students beside him trembled. They were injured because they were unconvinced and attacked. You're just a first-level venerable. I really don't know what you're so arrogant about. Lin Xian shook his head and walked forward. You're courting death. The short-haired young man in black roared angrily. No one dared to underestimate him like this. A freshman dared to provoke him. This was undoubtedly courting death. Although I can't kill you, I have a way to make you wish you were dead. The short-haired young man in black had a sinister expression as he revealed a cruel smile. If he killed Lin Xian and obtained the spiritual value points, he would have enough spiritual value points to allow him to cultivate on the second level for a few hours. Little rookie, I'll let you know the rules of Senmu College. The surrounding students shook their heads and sighed. The other party was the greedy wolf gang. If he went up, it was no different from courting death. Moreover, Lin Xian didn't seem to have any powerful aura. However, there were some new students who recognized Lin Xian. Isn't that the first place in the exam? Yeah, I remember him. He's very close to Morong Qingchen. I think his name is Lin Xian. Many people were discussing. First place in the exam. No wonder he's so arrogant. The short-haired young man in black was disdainful. First place in the exam, and you think you're invincible? What a joke. Let me tell you, you rookies are nothing in front of me. You talk too much nonsense. Lin Xian frowned and quickened his pace. Kid, kneel down. The short-haired young man roared and waved his palm. In the next moment, a terrifying aura erupted, and a powerful force surged along with the fist wind. The short-haired young man controlled the power very well. The power condensed together and rushed towards Lin Xian without spreading. Get lost. Lin Xian spat out a thunderous sound and also punched out. On his fist, golden lightning jumped, forming a dragon head that roared ferociously. Boom! The two collided, creating a deep sound that echoed in the tunnel. Suddenly, mysterious patterns appeared on the walls on both sides, emitting light and forming a light screen that protected the tower. The short-haired young man's body trembled, and he retreated continuously. Streaks of golden lightning coursed through his body, forming a powerful lightning force that numbed his entire body. What? Repelled. Everyone was shocked, their faces filled with disbelief. They did not expect that a freshman could actually beat back a member of the ravenous wolf gang with one punch. It was no wonder that the other party did not care at all and wanted to go to the second floor. It turned out that he was actually so powerful. The short-haired young man was equally shocked. His body trembled slightly as the golden electric arc slowed his movements. Spiritual energy surged within the short-haired young man's body, forming a spiritual energy shockwave that eliminated the lightning on his body. Then he stared at Lin Xian. A biting, cold, murderous aura filled the air. The freshman in front of him had actually made him suffer a loss. As a member of the greedy wolf gang, he could not tolerate this. Brat, you'll regret this. Scram! Lin Xian shouted coldly, his voice like thunder. Everyone was shocked. This freshman was so terrifying. Why did it seem that he was even more arrogant than the members of the greedy wolf gang? The short-haired young man's face was gloomy. Although he had suffered a loss just now, it did not mean that he was inferior to Lin Xian. In the next moment, the spiritual energy in his body surged, and a purple halo appeared with a terrifying aura. Brat, this is my martial soul, purple destruction halo. You should be proud that you were defeated by my martial soul. After displaying his purple ring martial soul, the short-haired young man had a domineering aura. Purple ripples appeared and spread in all directions like waves. They carried a terrifying power and surged toward Lin Xian. The surroundings became abnormally oppressive, making it difficult for people to breathe. Purple ring, martial soul. This is what you rely on. Lin Xian sneered. Sword radiance flashed in his eyes, and suddenly a fierce aura surged out, as if a peerless divine sword had been unsheathed, splitting the void. The surrounding people trembled, especially the martial artist who had warned Lin Xian. His eyes were wide open. He did not expect Lin Xian to have such strength. The fierce aura made his heart tremble, and he was unable to resist it. What is this, a martial soul? Why is it so fierce? Until now, he had not seen through Lin Xian's martial soul. The short-haired young man also felt Lin Xian's martial soul, and his face turned ugly. The fierce aura made his heart tremble, and he felt that he was unable to resist it. It felt as if there was a divine sword hanging above his head, and it would slash down at any moment. Sword of summer, sword of great waterfall. Lin Xian's fingers were like a sword, and they fell quickly. Suddenly, the spiritual energy in the sky rolled, and countless sword chi surged, like a huge silver waterfall, surging without stopping. Every waterfall was formed by sword chi, and it was extremely fierce. The short-haired young man's pupils shrank. This sword was too exquisite, and its aura was extremely violent. However, its power was controlled within a certain range, and it did not cause any damage to the spirit-gathering pagoda. This kind of precise control was frightening. However, he would not sit still and wait for death. With a cold snort, the short-haired young man held the purple destruction halo and swung it forward. Suddenly, rays of purple destruction halo rushed forward, and it was terrifying and dazzling. Rumble! The two forces intertwined together. The waterfall was extremely fierce, and it tore the sky apart. The purple destruction halo had a destructive aura. However, Lin Xian's great dragon sword soul was too powerful, and its attack power was far beyond that of the same level. Other than second heaven honorable realm experts, no one could resist it. Rip! In an instant, the purple destruction halo that filled the sky was torn apart like a piece of cloth, and terrifying cracks appeared. How is this possible? The short-haired young man was terrified. How could his opponent's martial soul be so powerful? This aura had surpassed that of a first heaven honorable realm expert. Could he be a second heaven honorable realm expert? His heart trembled, and his mind went blank. He had never met such a powerful opponent in the same level as him. Bang! In the next instant, the sword chi condensed and slashed down quickly. No! The short-haired young man screamed, and he was so frightened that he could not stand still. He did not want to die. Buzz! The sword chi suddenly stopped, and it was only an inch away from the short-haired young man's body. The cold aura stimulated the short-haired young man's body, and he almost collapsed. Lin Xian defeated the short-haired young man easily, but he did not kill him. That was because killing was not allowed in Senmu College. Scram! Don't let me see you again. Lin Xian's voice was cold. The short-haired young man's face was gloomy. He had lost today, but he believed that Lin Xian would definitely not dare to kill him. Moreover, there were so many people here. If he left just like that, he would be tarnishing the reputation of the ravenous wolves. Don't be complacent. You won't have a good ending if you offend the ravenous wolves. You still dare to threaten me? Lin Xian smiled. It seemed that he had been merciful to the short-haired young man. Then he waved his hand, and the sword chi became as soft as a whip, and it suddenly lashed down. Smack! The short-haired young man screamed and was sent flying. Bang! He crashed into the wall beside him, and countless defensive lights were activated. Plop! The short-haired young man fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked very miserable. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.